Where the original asks, what makes us human? This one asks, does it matter if you're special?
He doubles down on everything that people didn't respond to in the original Blade Runner. And that takes confidence to do that.
Every single shot of this is a screensaver.
And for me, that's how you do a legacy sequel, which is what this is. Respect what came before, but don't be like enslaved by it. Honor the original, but in your own voice.
And I'm honestly not surprised after he won the Oscar for this that he just kind of went, you know what? I think I've kind of done it now.
But then I heard Harrison Ford returning alongside Ryan Gosling, directed by Denis Villeneuve, shot by Roger Deakins, scored by Hans Zimmer. I was like, oh, go on, men.
That'll do.
Why not?
Might as well.
You blink and you'll miss something. And that's a good thing for me. I don't want to be told something 4 times.
I'd be useless doing this kind of thing.
Are you a replicant?
Yeah.
All the right movies.
Hello and welcome to All the Right Movies. Cells interlinked within cells interlinked within cells interlinked. And the podcast on classic and hit films.
Cells.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
You're listening to ATRM Classic, where we tell the story of Hollywood one movie at a time. And this time out, we're heading back to the most famous rain-soaked dystopian future there is, aren't we?
We are indeed.
And snow as well, this time.
Oh, yes.
A little bit, yep.
Yep, every cloud.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's Denis Villeneuve and Ryan Gosling versus the impossible, following up one of the most acclaimed science fiction films ever made as we talk Blade Runner 2049.
Sounds like a booming score in the background every time I say the title.
Yeah.
Well, before we start the future Noir investigation, let's talk about our own little digital enterprise, should we?
Absolutely.
So if you're a regular listener to our ATRM Classic episodes, you can help support what we do by becoming an ATRM patron. Patrons get access to our bonus podcast episodes called Double Feature, where we talk 2 films that may be worthy of the full classic treatment, and the watch list, where we review more modern releases. And you'll also get access to our whole archive of ATRM Classic episodes. So if you love science fiction, we've got the original Blade Runner, we've got The Matrix and Ex Machina.
Wow, yeah.
If you're into Villeneuve specifically, we've covered Arrival and Sicario as well. So much content, you'll need the memory capacity of a replicant to process it all.
Yes, you will indeed.
You will, yeah.
Nexus 10, probably.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
So visit our Patreon at patreon.com/all the right movies, or subscribe directly on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube as well. Back to this episode though, and Blade Runner 2049. Westy, you put this one up. Why are we talking about it?
Why do you think I put this up? I mean, a massive fan of the original, as we know, and I was so excited to say this. It was one of them ones that I was kind of just really hoping they weren't going to mess it up. I was like, please. And then I saw the first trailer and I thought, I've got such high hopes for this. Saw the second trailer and I thought, I'm booking the tickets now. It was first shown on the Friday that it came out. It was an afternoon show and left work early to go and see it. And I was not disappointed. What an experience that was. I was absolutely blown away. It's kind of easy in me top 5 cinema experiences of all time. Something that was like Dark Knight, Inception, Fury Road, and Blade Runner 2049. It was just such a feast for the eyes. It was just incredible. It was Deakins at the top of his game, Villeneuve at the top of his game. Loved Gosling at the time, obviously still do. Adored Harrison Ford. It just couldn't get any better for me, and it really doesn't, to be honest. Like I say, I loved the first Blade Runner. And it's the only film that's pretentious enough to have a commercial art house sequel. And nothing makes me happier than having that. So I was very excited then. I'm very excited now. I've wanted to talk about it for a long time, but it's just very daunting because there's so much in here. Terrified in case we miss anything out, but we'll try and keep everything in there. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about this one, and I'm very excited to talk about it, as per.
I mean, yeah. Hugely ambitious sequel, like we said, and not just any sequel, a sequel to a film regarded as one of the masterpieces of science fiction in Blade Runner. I remember this being announced and filling Ridley Scott's big shoes. There was always going to be trepidation, and for me, there definitely was. I didn't want them to do it at first, to be honest. But then I heard Harrison Ford returning, alongside Ryan Gosling in the lead, directed by Denis Villeneuve, shot by Roger Deakins, scored by Hans Zimmer. I was like, oh, go on, men.
That'll do.
Why not?
Might as well.
And on that first watch, I was kind of blown away as well, to be honest, with how it looks, how it sounds, with the themes it explores. It takes on the first film in the writing, which I wasn't really expecting, but delighted to see. So we'll talk about all that stuff, where it matches up and maybe doesn't with the first film, as well as how it was all made, of course. Some massive creative talents behind the scenes on this.
Yeah.
So this should be a brilliant one to dive into, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
And Matt, what's your relationship with BR2049?
My relationship with this one is that I'm really intimidated by it.
It must be big then.
When I saw Westy put it up, I was like, "Oh, it's great, but oh my god, I hope it doesn't win because having to wrestle this into some kind of shape is a task and a half." I mean, the film itself is one I never thought would actually exist or see the light of day, because why would you revisit this particular world when it was done to such perfection in the first place, but also done to pretty much zero financial success or critical acclaim at the time?
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
It felt like a lose-lose situation, because you either follow the Ridley Scott path, which didn't have that kind of success, or you go a completely different way, but risk losing the originality that Blade Runner had to make it a cult success later down the line. But here we are. It does exist, and it 100% is a Blade Runner film, for better, sometimes maybe worse in some respect, which we'll get into, but it definitely is one you need several attempts with this to really get your head around it.
Well, yeah, Blade Runner 2049 was produced by Alcon Entertainment, Columbia Pictures, Scott Free Productions, Bud Yorkin Productions, Torridon Films, and 1614 Entertainment. Distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures and Sony Pictures Releasing, and released on October the 6th, 2017. Filmed in multiple locations, including the US, Hungary, Spain, Mexico, and Iceland. The film was directed by Denis Villeneuve, written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green, based on characters from Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and it stars Ryan Gosling as Kay, Harrison Ford as Deckard, Ana de Armas as Joy, Sylvia Hoeks as Love, and Jared Leto as Neander Wallace. Los Angeles 2049 then. Should we go?
Let's go. Let's go now.
We're talking replicants and what it means to be born and made, but starting at the beginning of Blade Runner 2049.
The beginning.
Blade Runner 2049 sets us up in a world that's even more broken than the one we left 30 years earlier in 1982. Some strange maths there, but it checks out.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the not-so-brave new world when we head to LAPD HQ in Wallace Corp. But first, the opening.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we start aboard a spinner, a flying car, with our new Blade Runner, Officer K, en route to his latest assignment. He's heading to a protein farm outside LA to retire Sapper Morton, a rogue Nexus 8 replicant played by Dave Bautista. And what starts as a routine job turns into a brutal confrontation, a buried box, and a discovery that will rock K's world. What rocks your world, Matt?
Well, we'll talk about the armors later on, John.
Very nice.
But for now, though, I mean, this opening, it's got such a great film noir vibe when that shot of Kay just sitting there in the shadows, waiting for Sapper to enter. He's got there before him. And I do love that visual metaphor you've got at the start of that pot boiling away in the oven, because that's something I've said quite a few times about other films, like certain performances. Certain scenes are like watching a pot bubbling away and you're waiting for it to boil over. And that's absolutely what you get here with the sound of it constantly in the background, is the tension is rising between these two characters and you know it's going to kick off. When it does, I mean, the sheer force with which Sapper is slamming Kay into the wall is incredible. I mean, it's obviously not a film big on laughs, but I do think when Villeneuve cuts to the other side of the wall, so you just see the vibrations before they come crashing through, that's pretty funny.
That's terrifying, I think.
Well, I mean, well, I'll tell you what is terrifying, that punch to the throat that Kay starts laying into him. I mean, that always makes me feel crazy. So, very, very arresting opening, to say the least.
It really is. I mean, I think one of the purposes of a good opening scene is to set our expectations of what's to come in some way.
Yeah.
And Villeneuve does that in the very first shot. The close-up of that eye, the same way the original Blade Runner opens, but it's a different eye, obviously, and lit very differently as well.
Yeah.
So it's like we're in the same world, we're going to be exploring similar themes, but we do have something new to bring to it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're going to talk about what that is, but then we pull out of the establishing shots for the opening sequence, those huge, like, synthetic farms. And it's clear it's not quite the same world we last saw, but how stunning are those aerial shots?
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, really, really good.
Once we get into the narrative in Sapper's home, I think it's a great opener as well. I would say when Sapper walks into the kitchen, I've no idea how he doesn't see Kay sitting there, perfectly silhouetted against the window.
Yeah, amazing.
But the fight's brutal. I love how they come through the wall as well. Great. And it does show us Kay's abilities as well. Sapper literally slams him through a wall.
Yeah.
Kay hits him once and he's done.
Yeah.
Shows us the Nexus 9s, which Kay is, or something else, something new.
Yeah.
So, and easing us back into the Blade Runner world and letting us know there's something new things as well as being engaging. I think it's a great opening, 10 minutes or so.
I mean, just before we get to that bit, we get this incredible write-up, which is reminiscent of the first one.
Yeah, great.
What's the first thing we see on the screen? You remember?
Oh, I can't actually.
It says replicants in red,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is in the top left corner. So the whole audience has to look up and to the left, which is how you identify a replicant.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we're all looking up and to the left as if we're all replicants and we're all following this whole story.
Lovely.
It's brilliant touch and I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Like you said, I love that close-up of the eye. Obviously, it's not blue like the first one. It's green and there's reasons for that, which we'll get into later on. But it's just, again, these aerial shots are fantastic. The fact that Case is asleep in the spinner and he just kind of wakes up. You're then put in the position of, I know what kind of guy this is. And it's the lighting in this sequence, the way that they are silhouetted, the way that it is just exposed. We're just seeing what's going on. The sound design on this is absolutely amazing. And I was just so happy to see that overhead sync shot that Deakins seems to get in every film.
Great. Yeah.
He gets it in like nearly everything. And I'm like, yep, Roger Deakins is here. And it's just the quality of the shots, the quality of the lens choices, just the quality of the movement. Everything here is absolutely fantastic. It's just all these amazing, intricate details. You know, you've got the Russian writing on the tents, which transverts to Virgin Islands, which was the USSR of Russia. They would develop these high fertility farms where there was low populations. So obviously there were real things. And then Japan obviously won the first war, the nuclear war, and then Russia's won this one. So there's a lot of nods to Russia in this, a lot of nods to did they win this second war, this second Cold War, or whatever it was. And it just adds this brand new spin on this already familiar genre that could have just gone down the same route. I certainly would have. Japanese iconography, that's Blade Runner. But what else can we do? What's next? What's different? All of this sequence brings all of that in, and you don't even realize the first time you watch it. It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and it's when Kay finds that box under the tree and we realise what's in it.
Yeah.
That's when the film really starts to become its own thing, I think. This isn't going to just be a rehash, like a replicant who gave birth.
Yeah.
That does change things quite a lot.
Amazing as well. When he goes back to the spinner and he's writing the card out, but it's not on paper, it's on plastic because paper's so expensive. And trees. Just little things like that. That's a 1920s camera replay as well. From like an old 1920s camera that it slid into, So it's kind of
cool.
rehashing old things from the past. Fantastic.
Yeah, they've thought the backstory through to like the nth degree.
Almost too far. They've gone back on themselves a little bit. It's like a wormhole. To create a more authentic look, Villeneuve wanted to shoot at real locations on real sets as much as possible. The solar farms we see at the start of the film were filmed at the Gemma Solar Thermal Power Station near Seville in Spain. The scenes on Sapper's farm were filmed in Iceland, and the tree where Kay discovers the box wasn't a real tree. It was actually made out of concrete.
Yeah, heavy tree.
Really heavy.
Yeah, but they are great shots. I mean, there is digital work there, but it's mainly real locations with digital like enhancements rather than just pure green screen.
Yeah.
And it was Framestore, who we've interviewed, who did the effect shots in the opening.
Amazing, right?
Real landscapes that they inserted elements into digitally. I mean, that's the Villeneuve way, I think, isn't it? A blend of technologies.
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
And Dave Bautista got the part of Sapper through his standard casting process, but Villeneuve didn't want him at first because he thought he was too young. But the makeup supervisor, Donald Nowat, had Bautista made up to look older, and he managed to win Villeneuve over with his performance.
I'm surprised because watching it now, I think it's a great piece of casting.
It's brilliant casting, yeah. He's
to ever look young.
Exactly,
He looks about 50 all the time.
He does, yeah. But I think he manages to bring something to the character in just a couple of minutes, which I think is really important, which is like, I have sympathy for him. I feel bad for him.
Massively. Definitely. It's them glasses and the way he puts the glasses on. They're just so fragile that he seems like such a fragile character.
He does, yeah. It's like he's just living his life. He's not hurting anyone. And I feel it in the portrayal.
He's like John Coffey.
He is.
Scared of the dark.
We don't see it in the film, but the events that lead to the opening were filmed in a prequel short called 2048 Nowhere to Run. In that, a little girl and her mother are attacked by muggers. Sapper saves them by killing 3 muggers, showing he's a replicant, and that's how Kay tracks him down.
Yeah, so he's not hurting anyone. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But that's why I think replicants are so great as a piece of writing. They can represent any kind of like real world oppression because what it boils down to is kind of just leave them alone, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And the studios who made the film created 3 short films set between the original Blade Runner and this one, and that gives the backstory between the films. Westy just mentioned there Nowhere to Run about Sapper Martin, and there was an animation called Blackout 2022, and that explains the blackout mentioned in the film, where the data about replicants was destroyed so they couldn't be tracked, and replicant production was banned. And then there was also 2036 Nexus Dawn, and that shows how Neander Wallace brings about the end of prohibition on replicant production.
Yes, that's kind of everything important that's happened between the first film and this one, which is quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a bit, yeah.
And the animation was made by Shinichiro Watanabe, famous for the Animatrix, if you remember that.
Oh, okay, right.
And
Yes, I
Cowboy
remember.
Bebop as well. He did Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
didn't
he did.
Right.
And do you know who directed the other 2 short films?
Who was
It
it?
was Luke Scott, Ridley Scott's son.
Ah,
Wow,
right.
Yeah,
keeping it in the family.
absolutely.
Yeah, they are all interesting, those shorts, if you like Blade Runner.
The opening that we've just talked about was inspired by an opening that was written for the first film and rejected by Ridley Scott, which is crazy. But in that version, Rick Deckard was in a countryside house waiting to retire a replicant, dressed in a protection suit and a gas mask, while a pot of soup is boiling in the kitchen. All elements that are included in the 2049 version.
Instead, Scott just went, let's just have meat and noodles.
Yeah,
That'll
of
do
course.
it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to use that original idea. I think it means straight away the writers are tapping into the headspace that we're in 40 years earlier.
Yeah. I think of that original opening as well, he just shoots the replicant in the back, like in
Right.
cold blood. So he
Right.
didn't want to even introduce the character that way. He wanted to have a little bit more mystery and just not have
Right.
it as such a hard ass.
So then, after this bit on the farm, Kay gets called back, and just bear in mind, he's had the shit kicked out of him.
I know, awful.
It's
Yeah.
he's having the worst possible day.
Skin job, he calls him, yeah.
Skin job, yeah.
It was like me at school. Every day I went to school, Westy, get out of my way, I'm sorry.
Well, just like your school days, Wesley, then there's this
Yeah.
really aggressive test coming up, which,
Here we go.
you know, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, it's really disorientating, which is the point, but all the cells, interlinked, cells. Like, obviously it's harking back to the test in the original film, but it's so in your face. You know, it is like the worst job interview where you're like, yes, no, I don't know, like whatever the right answer is, I've said it, hopefully. But I like how the visuals change up here. It's so starkly white, and that contrasts to how we see the original test in the first film. But it's just like unnecessarily stressful. And I'm just really glad when this bit is over because, like, you know, when you have to select like which 3 squares in this picture have a traffic light in them.
Yeah.
Like, I panic over that. I'd be useless doing this kind of thing.
Oh, you were replicant.
Yeah. Cells interlinked, it's mental, but I love it.
I think
I
it's
like how we
great,
go
yeah.
from like the vastness of the California landscapes to this like claustrophobic booth where Chaos to kind of prove that he's still working properly.
Yeah.
And we talked about how this film develops themes from the original. I think this is a pretty good example of it because this is like the void camp test from the first film,
Yeah.
but turned on its head. I mean, the baseline test isn't testing for empathy like void camp. It's testing for like the absence of emotion.
Yeah.
It wants the opposite of more human than human in the original. And I think that's the point. The whole thing is about keeping Kay like literally in his box, making sure he's still a good little replicant doing his job. And it sets up the moment later when he fails the baseline test, which is really good.
Yeah.
So a great way to show Kay's like arc developing as well, I think.
The original screenplay had the baseline test at the very beginning of the film, but Villeneuve moved it to open with the landscape shots instead, which I think is miles better. And at first it was on Kay on a bed with a machine scanning him over, but through storyboarding, it changed to the booth, which I think, again, that's a better choice. The scanner in the scene was designed by storyboard artist Sam Hudecki.
It looks great, I think. Really like impersonal.
Yeah.
And going from what sounds like a medical exam or something to more like an interrogation, I think that works much better as well as the
Yeah.
sign of like oppression.
It's like obvious on a bed with a scanner going over him. It's what
Yeah.
you'd expect to see, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah.
And the dialogue of the test, the cells interlinked within cells interlinked, which we've been talking about, that's taken from a Vladimir Nabokov novel from 1962 called Pale Fire, but this changed as well. Originally, it was written as a mantra that Kay recites, but Ryan Gosling said they should use an acting method he knew called dropping in. And this was developed by 2 acting coaches called Tina Packer and Kristen Linklater, and was designed to help actors learn Shakespeare.
Yeah, dropping in's apparently done so that Shakespeare actors form like an emotional connection to what can obviously be pretty challenging text. And I guess it reminded Gosling of dropping in, and that gave him the idea. I think it works great because it's kind of like he's reprogramming himself.
Yeah.
And there's another Pale Fire reference coming up a bit later on.
2 versions of the baseline test were filmed, the original as it was in the script and the one we see. what we see was written by Gosling and filmed on 1 8-minute long take, and the editor Joe Walker cut it down to about 40 seconds. Go on, Joe.
8 minutes.
8
Imagine they
minutes.
just kept that whole scene as the first thing we see.
Yeah.
Mental.
I think that would be great. I would have kept that the opening. Yeah.
And the cityscape shots we see just before the baseline test, where we see Kay returning to LAPD, they were filmed in Mexico, and the helicopter shots of the favelas and urban areas around Mexico City.
Yeah, I think they used miniatures as well, like the first film. And again, everything's then enhanced with digital effects. I think it all just looks great.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
And that's the opening scenes. Synthetic forms and retired replicants. We've met Kay, seen him do his job, and discovered an impossible pregnancy. Time to see where that leads, I think. From there, Kay's boss, Lieutenant Joshi, played by Robin Wright, gets Kay on the case, and the investigation into a replicant baby kicks into gear. Kay heads to the Wallace Corporation, who now manufacture the replicants, where we meet blind god Neander Wallace, his right-hand replicant love, and a demonstration of Wallace's twisted relationship with his own creations.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt, how are things at Neander's place?
Outrageously OTT. Like, absolutely no need for that massive desk for one file clerk.
It's huge.
Just give him a little table and a chair. That's all he needs. I mean, no, the set design is incredible. And just when you think this is already very accomplished in terms of what they want this to look like and for how they want it to be lit, you meet Love in her office, just bathed in those reflections of the rippling water. Like, there's no practical need for any of this to look like this. But if you're going to make these creative decisions, follow through with them and make them look as good as this does, because there's no holding back here. If you're only ever going to make one Blade Runner film, you can't do half measures, and this scene absolutely doesn't. And I think there's some really good world building here as well. The mention of the blackout, which is really intriguing. And it is a bit like the Sapper Morton scene, not many laughs, but again, there's one here when the file clerk says his mom cried over the lost baby pictures, and Kay replies, "Well, it's a shame you. Must have been adorable."
Yeah, it's funny that. Yeah.
That might be the only joke in the whole film.
It's pretty sure it
definitely is. Yeah.
It definitely is, yeah.
And yeah, when Joshi drops the bombshell at LAPD about the replicant's remains, she was pregnant, she says. I'm always kind of waiting for Kay to go, "Pregnant," you might say, but never does.
He's not on the podcast, man.
That's what I would do.
Of course he would. He'd be like, "Get out, John." Baseline test again. You just failed.
But yeah, Wallace Corp, that is where the world building really kicks in. We do learn about the blackout, how records were lost, how Wallace saved the world from starvation with his farming. It's a pretty heavy exposition, but it's done quite elegantly. We're learning as Kay does. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. The file clerk guy is absolutely nuts, but I like him.
Yeah.
And we do know Gosling has comedy chops, so nice to get to see him use them here.
Yeah.
But something I think this film actually does better of a job of than the first film is tapping into the film noir style detective side of it. Because Kay carries out like a proper investigation here with the box leading to Wallace, leading to the horse. He's like a real detective, and it all kind of starts here.
The file clerk is played by Thomas Lemarquis, a French Icelandic actor who built his career starring in Icelandic films. And he has alopecia universalis, and that's a condition that left him hairless by age 14. And so he's often cast in roles that use a striking appearance. And the year before Blade Runner, he was in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, he's Caliban in X-Men. That's the same character Stephen Merchant played in Logan, if you recall
Oh,
that.
right, yes. Yeah.
Imagine Merchant showed up here.
That'd
Terrible
be great.
agent.
Yeah, you would have fit the look.
Yeah.
He would.
So after all this visual ecstasy that we've seen, I mean, another thing to touch on with all of Wallace's place is how much wood is on the walls and how much money he's got. It's all just kind of the timber everywhere. But there's a wonderful moment where this replicant is born. And just that shot through the door, and it's in the bag, and that moment that it's birthed out of it. I'm watching it again now going, yeah, I think Denis Villeneuve's definitely going to do Dune, isn't he? Just from that.
It could be from Dune.
It could be that shot. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's such a blueprint for it. But this is, again, is such an interesting scene. Because we've got him going in, he's realised about the birth of the child. He knows that what he's creating now isn't good enough. He wants something else. And the way that he just kind of treats this this replicant is just a thing now. It's not good enough. And the fact that he can't really see, and these drones are such a good idea. These 6 camera drones that come out and are plugged into his neck, and he sees through technology. So he hasn't got a soul. His eyes don't work necessarily through himself. He has to use technology to see. The fact that he puts one on Love just to see her reaction to it, I think is really important. And the way that he cuts the replicant's stomach, the same way that Sapper did to get the baby out of Rachel, of just slices that way to show that that's emptiness. You're not good enough then. I want something else that's going to give me something from that procedure. Again, really, really interesting. I love the way he kisses her as well, the same way as Batty kissed Tyrell before he pushes his eyes in the first film. That's all in there. That comes back later with Love and Kay when we get that at the end. And again, when Love kills Lieutenant Joshi later on, that's all mirrored from this moment of just trying to impress. And I think she's just upset that he's not impressed. She's not upset that this replicant's died. She's just upset that he's not pleased enough, which is why you get that single tear and that real emotion in her face. But you just get the menace of this character of Wallace, this menace of Leto, and I think he plays the part really, really well. It's got this real menace and this real insanity.
It is, yeah. I find it all pretty dark and disturbing, this scene. This definitely feels like the original Blade Runner to me. We see this like newborn replicant. It just seems frightened, which is awful. She's got no idea what's going on. And then Wallace just kills her. So he creates life, but seems to have no respect for it.
Yeah.
And Love, we'll talk about her more, obviously. But yeah, she's watching crying, which is a bit weird. Is she sad? I mean, there's a few times that we see Love do things in the film where the reason behind it isn't totally clear, which is surely intentional to add depth, I guess. And this is one of them. But it's like a beautiful place where awful things happen, which I think is very Blade Runner.
And the production designer was Dennis Gassner, and they built the set for Wallace's lair in Budapest. He based the design on one of the rooms in Kayumizu-dera, the 1,200-year-old Buddhist temple in Kyoto, Japan. And the floor type is called the Nightingale floor, where the floor chirps when people walk on it to prevent intruders.
Wow.
Obviously, because Wallace is blind. That chirping floor would drive me mad.
Yeah.
Turn it
Like
off.
when you need to change the batteries in your Fireball, I'm like, actually going off.
Well, the production design's great. Everything's clean and minimalist, which is like the opposite of the outside world. It is like a temple. Wallace has built himself this like kind of palace, while the rest of the world seems to just rot.
Yeah.
And speaking of Neander Wallace, he's played by Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Seems to be a bit of a divisive performance from what some people say about it.
Yeah.
What do we think, Matt?
Let's see Paul Allen's replicant.
No can do. Sergio Ceviche.
I mean, I'll be honest, Leto, the only performance I like of his is American Psycho, mainly because he gets an axe in the face, so I'm glad he isn't in this too much. I do find him a bit insufferable, a bit pretentious.
Really?
Yeah. I can't stick him at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a big talent. Jared Leto, a huge acting talent. And it's not the performance that's a problem for me. It's kind of the choices from Leto and Villeneuve, presumably. I think Wallace is so serene and so calm, which would be fine. But I'm not sure it works here because Kay is already reserved, following on from Deckard, who's also reserved. So I'm not sure it works having a bad guy who holds back as well, like Wallace does. Tonally could do with a bit more variation, maybe. Do you think, Westy?
I kind of think so, yeah. But I personally think we've got everything we need in Love. I don't think we need Wallace.
Yeah, Love's great.
At
Yeah,
all.
Love's
I think
great.
it's like having Tyrell in the first one. We don't need him when you've got Batty. So that's what you need. I needed her to be, when she's getting her nails done and the bombs are coming down. Boom. That's
badass.
it.
Oh,
She's
brilliant.
a real badass, and she is the badass for all of the film. And she really does overshadow Leto, to be honest.
I would agree. I think she does.
So when Villeneuve was casting as part of Wallace, he considered Ed Harris and Gary Oldman, but the person he originally wanted was David Bowie. That would have been unbelievable.
That would have been great.
Bowie looking for a baby yet again. Forget about the babe. It would have been amazing.
Same here.
Same hair. Imagine just that in silhouette. And just it would have been a massive cod piece. He's allowed. I really would have given anything to see that. But unfortunately, he passed away in 2016 and Leto was cast. Yeah, and Villeneuve said that he had an underlying menace. This is Leto, that he wanted the musical backgroround like Bowie. I mean, it's a thin connection, isn't it?
It's very thin connection. That
the musical background. I mean, 30 Seconds to Mars.
Exactly. The menace, Leto can do that, but I'm not sure he can compare 30 Seconds to Mars to Bowie.
I mean, the kill's not exactly hunky-dory, is it? Let's be honest.
And to get fully immersed in the fact that Wallace is blind, Leto wore opaque contact lenses that made it impossible to see. and they were specially hand painted by an expert. And apparently, there's only 2 people in the world that can do that. And he wore them for the beginning of the day until he left the set.
And I guess that ties back to Eldon Tyrell from the first film, who created the replicants and then had his eyes gouged out for it by Roy Batty.
Yeah.
There's another Roy Batty reference. In Blade Runner, Batty quotes a William Blake poem and says, "Fiery the angels fell." And here, Wallace refers to his replicants as his angels.
He does. Also a nod to the fact that, I mean, as far as Wallace is concerned, they're angels. And I don't know about you, but I think he might have a bit of a god complex.
Well, just
Slightly
maybe a little
narcissistic.
Yeah, I think so.
And,
Yeah.
That's too obvious to even talk about, isn't it? Really?
just a bit.
Yeah.
And it's around this time we see Kay's apartment for the first time as well. The exteriors and interiors were also shot in Budapest, and the set was built on a soundstage and filled with mist to create the look of fog outside Kay's window.
Yeah, add some technology and a bit of mist, and you've got a dystopian future.
That's all you
But
need.
nice set, the
You
apartment.
need a
I
little
think it's
bit
really
more
good.
than that, John, I think.
on a low budget, he was dystopian future.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
apartment's a nice set. I think
Yeah.
it's really good.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
it's wonderful, yeah. The practical lighting in there is great, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we meet Ana de Armas as Joy for the first time as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
We'll have more on Joy as we go, but that's the beginning of Blade Runner 2049.
It
We've
is.
seen a miracle, a replicant who gave birth, met most of our main players, and seen the kind of world they inhabit. Should we talk about the man orchestrating all of it?
Let's do it.
Got to. Yeah.
The director.
The director of Blade Runner 2049 was Denis Villeneuve. This was his 9th feature film, and coming off the back of Prisoners, Sicario, and Arrival, his second foray into science fiction. Taking on a sequel to one of the most beloved science fiction films of all time, not an easy gig, Matt.
Nope.
How did Villeneuve handle the pressure?
Well, we've covered Arrival, and I said on that episode, I do think he's very similar to Ridley Scott anyway, in that he's all about the visuals, not necessarily the storytelling. So it makes perfect sense that he's the one that picks up this particular baton. And it has to be said that confidence to do that is something else, because it's not just one of the most revered films of all time he's doing the sequel to. He's making a sequel to a film that was a famous commercial flop. But the thing is, he's not changing a single thing about it that made it flop. The pacing is glacial here. It's downbeat. The plot is very obscure for the most part. If anything, he doubles down on everything that people didn't respond to in the original Blade Runner. And that
Love it.
takes confidence
it.
to do that.
That's
Takes
amazing.
such confidence. Like, he doesn't feel the need to inject it with action sequences just to hurry it up a bit. Like, if you compare him to Spielberg looks at Blade Runner, loves it, but he goes and makes Minority Report. Villeneuve looks at Blade Runner and goes, I'll just do more of that because I can. So while this will always be the world that Ridley Scott has created, Villeneuve is right at home in it, and he understands it to an extent I don't think anyone else did at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we say something is a great sequel, we're not just saying we enjoyed it necessarily. A great sequel, like traditionally, is something that fits in with the first film, but also goes in a different direction a bit, maybe going back to The Empire Strikes Back. And I think this definitely ties into that tradition of what makes a great sequel. The tricky thing, I think, is you want to do your own thing, but you can't move too far away. What Villeneuve does still has to fit in Ridley Scott's world. So it's like, where do you pitch it? And I think Villeneuve goes with what he knows. He grew up in Canada in the 1970s, where apparently it could snow for like 7 months of the year. So that's why he brings snow here, I think, to put it through the lens of something he's familiar with. And totally, I think this has a feel of 70s science fiction, like Silent Running or Solaris, like intense and hard-hitting. I see those influences there. And what he brings, that he always does, I mean, there's not many directors that treat their audience as intelligent as Denis Villeneuve does. He explains things but once, you're expected to keep up, and if you don't, that's on you. The way that he handles the reveal about Kay's memories, the way he builds up to the twist about who the child really is, you blink and you'll miss something. And that's a good thing for me. I don't want to be told something 4 times. And how it looks, I'll save that for when we get to the visuals, but it's astonishing, even by Villeneuve's high standards. But I think he understood that if you want to make something that lasts, you can't just remake Blade Runner. You have to find something new to say, and I think he does. Where the original asks, what makes us human? This one asks, does it matter if you're special? And for me, that's how you do a legacy sequel, which is what this is. Respect what came before, but don't be like enslaved by it. Honor the original, but in your own voice. And that's what Villeneuve does. That's what Villeneuve always does. And it's not perfect. I'll talk about some nitpicks that I have, but to follow up a huge film like Blade Runner, and make something worthy of the original, which I definitely think this is. That's some achievement in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original Blade Runner is fantastic. It's a work of art, and it always has been, and it always will be revered in such a way. If that's a Nexus 6 for me, and this is a Nexus 9, I think that's what Villeneuve wanted to do. It's just slicker, it's faster. He has such a command over the tone, but with such a love and respect for Ridley Scott's vision at the same time. It all kind of paints together. This is perfect for me. It sits perfectly between Arrival and Dune. You can see the step between them. That step up the ladder to like, right, I can grab this now. I'm ready to go to the next level. You can see his career progressing through this film.
Yeah.
And I remember what Matt said on the Arrival episode, and he also said it on Prisoners, is that Villeneuve is a very cold director. And we said it in Sicario as well. And I think he is a cold director, but that's exactly what this film needs.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, and he absolutely nails it. I think he's the perfect choice for this.
Well, as we've been saying, the original Blade Runner was a box office flop when its release in 1982. Over time, though, its reputation grew to the legendary one that it has today, and there were many near attempts to make a sequel over the years. I think you know a bit more about that, Matt.
So it starts back in 1995, where Kate W. Jeter wrote an authorized sequel to Blade Runner as a novel called Blade Runner 2, Edge of Human. A screenwriter called Stuart Hazeldine adapted that into a spec screenplay called Runner Down, but the film's rights owners, Bud Yorkin and Jerry Perniccio, weren't interested.
Yeah, it's set about 10 years after the original, and apparently it's about Deckard trying to hunt down a replicant who's learned the secret of long life so he can prevent Rachel from dying.
And then Ridley Scott and Warner Brothers started talking about a Blade Runner sequel in the 2000s, but had problems due to licensing disputes over Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the Philip K. Dick novel Blade Runner is based on.
Yeah, Jerry Perenchio, who you mentioned there, he was like a billionaire, and he didn't want a sequel to be made, so any sequel talk went nowhere for years, because apparently he would just say, no chance.
So then Scott came up with an idea for a sequel only vaguely connected to the first film called Metropolis.
A bit unoriginal.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's heard of that one, Ridley, have they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, apparently it was going to be heavily inspired by like the Fritz Lang classic, which is why it was called that.
But Metropolis stalled, so then in 2009, Scott worked with his son Luke and his brother Tony Scott on Purefold. And this was going to be a web series of shorts set before the events of the first film, but that stalled due to lack of funding.
Yeah, apparently the narrative for the whole series was going to be shaped by ideas that people had on social media platforms, and they would kind of follow that. So that could have been like interesting.
Yeah.
But by this time, Bud Yorkin had bought Jerry Pernicio's share of the rights to the book, and producers Broderick Johnson and Andrew Kossoff, who owned Alcon Entertainment, they struck a deal with him for film rights to sequels and television. So they approached Ridley Scott, and he signed on to direct in 2011.
Yeah, so the deal said that they weren't allowed to remake the original. I mean, why would you?
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
anything new that had the green light, hence the prequel short to the television series that we've had and all that stuff.
So they had a script at this point, and Harrison Ford was interested in returning, but Scott then dropped out due to clashes with Alien Covenant, but he did stay on as executive producer to oversee the creative direction.
He wants to do everything, Scott, doesn't he? Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, sequels to all of it.
Yeah, massive. Thelma and Louise, they're just going to float. Turns into a spinner. Blade Runner 2050.
So Scott left, but Alcon knew who they wanted to take over. They'd worked with Denis Villeneuve on Prisoners a few years earlier and knew he now had science fiction experience in Arrival, so approached him. He loved Blade Runner, obviously, and although initially hesitant, eventually signed on.
Yeah, he said that he didn't think a sequel should be made, but also he didn't want anyone else to do it in case they fucked it up, as he put it.
Yeah, classic. Yeah.
Villeneuve said that he felt under a lot of pressure to do the first film justice, obviously. He said what made it worse was that Ridley Scott was on the set all of the time. And eventually Villeneuve asked him how he would feel if his favourite director, Ingmar Bergman, was looking over his shoulder while directing. Scott said he understood and then just left the set completely.
Yeah.
I understand. Yep.
You can imagine. I mean, it's not like he won't voice his opinion, Scott, is it?
Oh,
Banging
God, no.
on the set
Yeah,
must have been a nightmare.
Yeah, just in the background.
Yeah.
Two shot, that's a two shot.
Exactly.
And Villeneuve did have his own vision for the film. Renee April was costume designer, and she said she designed some out-there outfits in her words, but Villeneuve told her to rein it in. He said, with the world being decimated by the blackout and famine, fashion had become secondary and clothes were just functional. There are some nods to the original, though. Joy has a transparent coat similar to the one that one of the replicants, Zora, wears in the first film.
She does. I mean, function over fashion does make sense, but still, I love Kay's coat. With a huge collar.
Amazing.
It's absolutely awesome. One of the best coats ever.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaker. You just kind of pull it off, can you? It's like the drive jacket with the scorpion on the back. Try wearing that. Just like a helmet. Idiot.
He makes any coat look great. Ryan
He really
Gosling.
does, yeah.
And the production designer on arrival was Patrice Vermette, but he was unavailable for Blade Runner. So Villeneuve hired Dennis Gassner, like we mentioned. He'd worked with the Coen brothers and the 3 James Bond films before this, and said when he met Villeneuve, he said, "Describe the world we're creating in one word." And Villeneuve said, "Brutality."
Yeah, it's a bit of a harsher world in the first film, so brutality works. And you see that in the building. It's like Kay's apartment block, which is kind of a brutalist architecture.
Yeah.
And I think the spinners as well, they're designed to be a bit more striking. They're a bit more angular, I think. So things have changed and developed a bit. So they put thought into it.
And Gassner said that he and Villeneuve both only like using green screen when absolutely necessary, so they want to make as many sets as they could. They couldn't get into London to film, and Ridley Scott suggested Budapest, where he just shot The Martian, and that's where they shot most of the film.
Yeah, they built just about everything. So Kay's apartment, Wallace Corp that we talked about, all filmed in Hungary.
Yeah.
And I think Budapest has that brutalist architecture style as well. So
It does,
it's perfect for what Villeneuve wanted,
Beautiful, yeah.
Before we finish on Denis Villeneuve, we have our first ATRM Patreon question. So as well as all those benefits that we mentioned at the start of the show, if you sign up to become an ATRM patron, we'll answer your questions as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have one now about legacy sequels.
There we go.
So
Lovely.
Lucas is here. Not George Lucas, I don't
Oh,
think.
okay. Oh, right.
I bet he's got an opinion on legacy sequels.
I bet he has.
Less of them, please, George.
He invented them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But hello, Lucas, either way.
Hello, Lucas.
And he says, lads, I'll never forgive you for choosing this over the thin red line. Just kidding. I love you boys and appreciate all the work you do. 10 out of 10. So thanks, Lucas.
It'll come back round another poll.
It will eventually. I'll end up doing it by myself when I'm like 98 or something. That'll be fine.
But Lucas' question is, seeing as Blade Runner is a legacy sequel, do you guys like legacy sequels and are they necessary? Personally, Lucas says, when they're done right, they're fantastic. A high point being Top Gun Maverick.
Okay.
So, for anyone not familiar with the term, a legacy sequel is a film that continues the story after like a big time gap, usually introduces new characters alongside returning legacy ones. So, Blade Runner 2049 does fit the bill. But what do you think, Matt? Legacy sequels in general?
I mean, in general, I just treat them like any other film. If they're good, they're good. If they're bad, they're bad. The concept is fine. I think it comes down to, is there a genuine reason for them to exist? This one, yes, because there was a whole world to explore in Blade Runner. I mean, he mentions Top Gun Maverick. The weird thing about that is there wasn't really a reason for that to exist. It didn't have that world, and yet it did succeed. And I think through that combination of the nostalgia people had for the original and just Tom Cruise being a madman and getting up there in an actual plane.
Well, that's true.
Everyone getting up there in an actual plane, I think that was the whole point, isn't it?
Well, yeah, everyone getting up there, which we hadn't really seen before.
Yeah.
And
That was a big sell, yeah.
that was the big, and that's the thing, you've got to find the big sell, and then you get others. I mean, we talked about Mary Poppins a few episodes ago. Mary Poppins Returns, I guess that would be a legacy sequel, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But then you'll get stuff like Beetlejuice, where it's fine, but you'll never think about it like after you've watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lucas has kind of given the only real answer to his question there. When they're done right, or well, legacy sequels, yeah, great. When they're done wrong, they can be pretty terrible. I think the problem we've had is that most of them, I would say, have been done wrong. The good ones, like 2049, understand that you can't just give people the same thing again, like we said. I think Top Gun Maverick works because it's about aging. It's about passing the torch. It uses the 30-odd year gap between the films as part of the story, writes it into the story. The bad ones, to me, just trying to remind you of the original without adding anything new. Remember this line. Remember this spaceship. Here it is again.
Yes,
all
a
that
bit of
kind
music.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not interesting storytelling. That's just like nostalgia mining to me.
Yeah,
There's plenty of examples of it in the big IPs. Star Wars, The Terminator, The Matrix, Alien, they've all done it.
Yeah.
Blade Runner does that better. We do get an early reference to the first film when Kate interviews Gaff about Deckard. And it's good to see Edward James Olmos again, so it does have that aspect to it, but it works. It doesn't feel shoehorned in because it makes sense as part of the investigation that he would go and talk to him. So,
Yeah. It does make sense.
are legacy sequels necessary? I mean, no, probably not. Blade Runner didn't need a sequel. But I think the question we ask maybe shouldn't be, do we need this? But do you have something worth saying? If the answer to that is yes, I think we do, then I'm all for legacy sequels.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with a legacy sequel over a sequel itself, to be honest. I mean, I can take either of them as long as there's passion behind it and as long as there's a reason for it to exist, similar to what you guys are saying. And I think the ones that really work have an emotion and have, like you have said, a reason to be made.
Yeah.
And not just, there's a fortune in nostalgia. People will go and see anything once. Oh, I remember, Indiana Jones. I'm a sucker for that. I'll go and see it. And there's another one out tomorrow. I'm still going to pay money and go and see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
Because there's money in it. And you can see the films that have done that and are being made for that reason. They stand out a mile. But the ones that have been made through passion because they don't care about the money coming in, they stand out a mile as well. People are going to go and see it anyway, just out of this nostalgia or curiosity, which is like Trainspotting 2 and Doctor Sleep. They just didn't work at all. And then the ones that really stand out for me, the ones that really work with the passion behind them are Mad Max Fury Road, Creed. And one that nobody talks about as a legacy sequel, and everyone's forgotten about it, is The Colour of Money, which is a legacy sequel of The Hustler.
Yes,
it is.
And I think that's
the original.
That's probably my favourite legacy sequel of all time.
Well, for his work on Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve wasn't nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. The film was nominated for Best Picture, though, losing out to the same film that won Best Director. Do you remember what that was? It was The Shape of Water. Guillermo del Toro, Best Director.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That really forgettable Oscar winner.
Clearly it is.
Absolutely it is, yeah.
But for us, in creating a sequel to a Stone Cold classic that respects the original and finds its own voice, some impressive work from Denis Villeneuve on Blade Runner 2049.
100%, definitely.
The cast.
Denis Villeneuve assembled an eclectic cast for Blade Runner 2049, established stars, rising talents, and some big supporting players. We'll be talking about Harrison Ford as Deckard, Ana de Armas as Joy, and Sylvia Hoeks as Love in a bit. But let's start with our lead, should we? So Ryan Gosling plays Officer K, KD6-3.7, to give him his full name. A Nexus 9 replicant who works as a Blade Runner for the LAPD, we follow K's journey from obedient officer to someone who discovers he might be special, only to learn he's not, but chooses to do the right thing anyway.
Yeah.
A complex arc for a complex character, so I'm handing off to a complex man.
Okay.
Matt,
how
was Ryan Gosling as K?
That's me. Right. Well, you in for letdown. I mean, Gosling, he's just consistently great anyway, so no surprise that he's great here. And he's always had that ability to go from something where he's really funny and he's really charming, like The Nice Guys or Barbie, but then he can go really buttoned up and quiet and intense, like Drive, where he's really happy with very little dialogue. And this definitely fits that kind of Gosling performance. Kay thinks he knows who he is, and who he is says very little. He obeys commands, and he goes home at the end of the day, and he knows his place in society. But then he goes through that slow awakening of realizing there's more to him and his backstory, and there's more to this world, which is such a classic character arc, and Gosling plays it really, really well. And he's completely on board with keeping that movie star charisma that he has away for the most part. It's a very internalized performance. We've said it, but he looks amazing in that leather coat. But he just fits into the world and he fits into the vibe of the film. I don't think it would be in the conversation for my favourite Gosling performance, but he's great all the same.
He is. I think he's a really good protagonist and he has a really interesting arc. At the start, he's exactly what Wallace and the LAPD want him to be. A Blade Runner who passes baseline tests, follows orders, goes home to his holographic girlfriend. He's accepted that he's less than human. But then comes that wooden horse. Kay discovers his memories might be real. And he basically turns into like Pinocchio. Good job he doesn't tell any fibs. But it's interesting because he wants it. He wants to have been born or special, which is a pretty fundamental like human impulse. We all want to believe that we matter to some extent, surely.
Yeah.
And that's what Kay represents for me. They're telling us that humanity isn't about where you come from. It's about empathy and choosing to do what's right. And that's what Kay does. It sets up this chosen one narrative and then flips it on its head for the better. I think it's really fantastic writing. And I think it's pretty classic Ryan Gosling. And he carries the film. He's in almost every scene. And when you're following up from peak Harrison Ford, which he is, and you kind of don't miss Ford too much, that tells you how good this is.
Yeah.
Great character, great arc, and I think great from Gosling as well.
Yeah, I think he's the complete package, to be fair. He brings the physicality
He
into
is.
the role. It's just absolutely complete. It's just everything that you need. And he's, like you guys have said, I mean, he's always been very solid, but to me, a very robotic actor, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Not like it's been like, oh, God, I wish he was just a bit less wooden. He's not wooden. He's just like, he's malleable.
Yeah.
But it's the believability of this. Like, you believe this guy? And it really had me doubting, even after everything we've seen in the opening, even after we've seen him asleep in the spinner, waking up, crashing through a wall, doing a baseline test. We know that he's got no soul. His lieutenants taught him that. I'm still kind of doubting whether he's a replicant or not halfway through this film.
Yeah.
I think he's just one of the best actors of his generation, and this really shows it.
I would agree. I think he's great.
And Gosling was the only person ever really considered to play Kay. Hampton Fancher said he was thinking of Gosling in the lead when he was developing the story. And when he told Ridley Scott that was who he wanted to cast, Scott said, "You got it." And when he was offered the part, Gosling accepted straight away. He said he loved the script, but the chance to work with Villeneuve and Roger Deakins is what made it for him.
And then when Villeneuve came in, he just went, Ryan Gosling. Yeah, great choice. It does seem like a bit of a no-brainer for this character, I think, doesn't it?
Absolute no-brainer, yeah.
So it was the first time that Gosling had played the lead in a big blockbuster film, so he was a bit nervous. But Villeneuve calmed him down. And then Gosling said, if you made a list of all the characteristics you hope for in a director and sent it to Santa Claus, there'd be Denis Villeneuve sitting under the tree Christmas morning, maybe a little drunk on eggnog, but he'd be there. Love that.
Yeah, it was his first blockbuster. And he
Yeah.
said that he was overwhelmed by the scale of the sets at first because he wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not that you can tell, I don't think. Seems right at home.
And Lenny James, who plays Mr. Cotton, the orphanage manager, he said the cast had to follow really strict rules during production. When they were offered the part, they had to accept within 36 hours, and the scripts were incomplete. They'd mostly just get the pages for scenes their character was involved in.
Yeah, they got digital copies of the scripts and they'd get deleted immediately after they finished filming their scenes. So
Wow.
no leaks on this one here.
Right.
No Oscar nominations for Ryan Gosling for his performance as Kay. Winner that year was Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour.
Oh, yeah.
But for us, carrying a huge blockbuster, bringing humanity to a replicant, and holding his own against Harrison Ford, pretty good stuff from Gosling.
Oh,
Yeah.
great
Top
stuff.
draw. Top draw.
The second male lead is Harrison Ford, returning as Rick Deckard. 30 years after the events of the first film, we find Deckard hiding with his dog in the ruins of Las Vegas. Dragged back into the story, he's captured by love, rescued by Kay, and then reunited with the real miracle child, his long-lost daughter.
Yeah.
Just when he thought he was out, they pulled him back in, Westy.
Absolutely.
Deckard and Harrison Ford.
Yes.
So how does he handle the return?
I mean, he's always in for me, let's be honest. He's never out of the equation. He's always got a seat at the table, which is absolutely fine. It's another classic turn from Ford. But the great thing is this film does not depend or rely on him whatsoever. He is just there and it really works. There's a great, great subtlety to this, a real subtle anger that he plays and he portrays it really well. There's no ego here to this performance whatsoever. It's just him and Gosling, and they share the space, and they really work off each other, and it works really well. What I love about this performance is that he's not necessarily trying to do the physical role. You can see that he cannot really do it, and he's playing into that because we know he can, probably a little bit better than he's doing, but he's acting tired. He's acting like he's had enough. But for me, it's just the really emotional ending beats that he has. He's got these real emotional moments. Like when he's talking to Wallace and says her eyes were green. Broke my heart in the cinema, that.
Great.
I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's incredible. And it's from Harrison Ford. It was just such a gut punch and beautifully delivered. But one of the things I've noticed watching it yet again, so it must be like fifth, maybe sixth time I've seen it, doing it again for this, is when they're drinking and he offers them the whiskey, right? And they're sitting at the bar. And you've got Kay who puts his full hand around the glass and drinks it and puts it down. But then it cuts back to Ford and he's on his right hand and he's got his two fingers and they're just underneath the tumbler, just supporting it, as if he cannot grip it properly at all.
Right.
And then when he's holding the binoculars, he's got the same two fingers on gripping the binoculars. Now, if you go back to the original Blade Runner, Batty breaks them two fingers on his right hand.
Oh, yeah.
So he cannot use them properly in this. He cannot grab the glass or the binoculars. So it's these really subtle bits in the performance where he's bringing something else to it. And everyone's like, he's just wearing a grey T-shirt. Yeah, watch it 6 times and you'll see what he's bringing to it. It's Harrison Ford and it's absolutely fantastic stuff.
I agree. I mean, we talked about legacy sequels before and bringing back classic characters. And I think the way they handled Deckard here might be one of the gold standards.
Yeah.
When you see people return in big roles in big series years later, I sometimes don't feel like I'm even watching the same character. Not here, though. This is totally Deckard to me. What's good is they've aged him, like, realistically. This isn't the Deckard who was hunting replicants. This guy's been in hiding. He's lost Rachel. He's lost his child. And I feel all of it. I buy that he's been sitting in a Vegas casino drinking and listening to Elvis for 30 years. I mean, there's worse ways to live in exile, to be fair.
Oh,
it's hardly
absolutely,
Dagobah, is it?
No. Millions of bottles of whiskey. Fine.
And I think Ford plays it really well. He could have easily phoned this in, but doesn't.
He cares about it, doesn't he? He really
does.
cares.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell that he does, yeah. I sense the desperation there. I mentioned some more specifics when we get to the end, but an excellent turn from Ford for me. A proper movie star, obviously. And this is his best in years, I reckon.
Yeah, I think there's an irony that out of all three classic characters that Ford has revisited, it's the one where he had the most miserable experience first time round that he gets the most interesting material with. I mean, there was nothing left to do with Indy. Only thing left to do with Solo was to get killed, which he'd always wanted anyway.
Yeah.
But there is somewhere else to go with Deckard. You know, what was his future like with Rachel? We see ultimately it was a tragic one, and he had to sacrifice a lot to keep their daughter safe. And we see the effects of that. We see the effects of the years and years of isolation and loneliness that he's put himself into. And we see what that's done to him. And to bring in his character arc about finding some kind of redemption with his daughter, just when we think the whole film is about Kay finding out who he is, which actually tends to be mostly relevant, that turn works really well. And I think Ford is just so engaged with this material and completely responds to it.
Yeah, he's into it, isn't he? You can tell that he's into it.
Yeah,
hugely. Yeah.
And when Ridley Scott first pitched the idea to Harrison Ford about a Blade Runner sequel, he said they talked at length about what the role would be until they agreed on the storyline. And then when he was happy with it, that's when Ford agreed to come back as Deckard.
I want to be in it as little as possible. Probably. Whiskey, exile, Elvis, and I'm in. Well, this is how they do a legacy character, I think. The best example of it I've seen, in all the recent ones anyway.
The final scene Harrison Ford filmed was his final scene in the film, and apparently he enjoyed his time on set so much that he got emotional when they finished, and some crew members began to cry. I mean, it's an emotional scene anyway.
Yeah.
You know, just a hand on the glass, so I can imagine he's just...
You know,
it's a wonderful... That's been wonderful to see, wonderful for the crew as well. I think from Ford as well, he hated the first making of Blade Runner. But I think he sat in the theatre and watched it and just went, oh, fucking hell, Ridley Scott's right.
Yeah.
I need to make it up to him now, so I'll do that again when that asks us to, and he's waited this long, so he's really made it up to him, I think.
He has, yeah. He's only grumpy when it comes to Star Wars, I think. Anything else, he loves it.
Now he is,
No major award recognition for Harrison Ford either, but for us, returning to a famous franchise and adding new layers while delivering what came before, a good return from Harrison Ford.
Really necessary, brilliant.
Yeah, really great performance from him.
As well as the two A-listers in the leads, Blade Runner 2049 has a pretty impressive supporting cast as well. We've talked about Jared Leto as Neander Wallace, and are now going to turn our attention to the two core female cast members. That's Ana de Armas as Kay's holographic companion Joy, and Sylvia Hawkes as Wallace's best angel and the film's main antagonist, Love. Two very different kinds of artificial ladies. How do they do it for you, Matt?
I mean, the thing about de Armas is I'm always a little bit uncomfortable talking about it because I can't look at this performance without thinking, John, if you found a genie in a lamp who only gave you one wish, your wish would be joy. Absolutely. Ana de Armas, holographic form, cooking you dinner. Yeah. That's your life. Wonderful.
You know me too well, Matt.
I do know you do well.
I think he's halfway through making it, to be honest. He's sitting there with a bra on his head like Weird Science.
You rumbled me.
Yeah. I make websites, I bet you do, mate.
Joy, though, just such an interesting concept because there's so much fuss in the film about replicants developing and procreating. No one seems that bothered about AI and holograms who've developed to the point where they can physically interact with people now and seemingly have developed their own emotions and their own desires, which I think is a really interesting thing they've just put in the background there. If I was to trim this film down a bit, it maybe is a bit long. I think you could lose some of Joy's scenes. Maybe, particularly the really weird one that I know Westy's going to talk about in a bit.
I'm excited about that.
Yep, I bet you are. But that's nothing on Darmas. I think she's really good in this.
Yeah, she is. I mean, with Kay being so reserved, which Gosling is great at, Joy being so exuberant and like full of life. Ana de Armas is like a breath of fresh air when she's on the
she is.
screen.
Yeah.
She's really warm. And again, I like how she's written. She's a hologram programmed to fulfill people's desire. She tells us that herself. Everything you want to see, everything you want to hear. So you buy a Joy, and if you want her to dance, she'll be a great dancer. If you want her to read, she'll be a bookworm.
Yeah.
Kay wants to be special, so she wants that as well and pushes him down that path. He's Pinocchio, and she's like Jiminy Cricket, chirping away in his ear. Joy Mini Cricket.
Very good.
Wow.
But what's great is that unlike Kay with Joy, I think it turns out to be a lie. She ends up almost being like the femme fatale, a beautiful woman who turns out to be kind of all wrong. The moment that the giant hologram Joy calls him Joe at the end is the bit. That's the reveal that it was all kind of part of her programming. It's brutal. He's gutted.
Yeah.
I'd rather be called Kay anyway. Much cooler than Joe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Ana de Armas, excellent at breathing some much needed life into things. And Joy adding more layers to some already pretty complex themes. I think she's a great supporting character.
To make Joy seem more artificial, the editor Joe Walker experimented by freezing her image for 9 frames before she responds to a question, so it looked like her program paused for a split second just before answering.
Right.
And Villeneuve wasn't convinced, though, and just said, just have her respond normally, please.
I like how the show showed a hologram at the start when she changes outfits about 5 times in a few seconds, which is like works really well.
And the giant Joy in the hologram advertisement, that's supposed to be her default setting. So their idea is Kay customized her voice and appearance. The advertisement version of Joy was voiced by an assistant editor called Mary Lucaswitch, and she was meant to be dubbed by Ana de Armas, but Villeneuve just decided to keep the voiceover as is.
Yeah, which again ties into the idea that Joy isn't real. She was just programming, I guess. Yeah.
I'll go into the second female member of the cast and probably one of the most important and overlooked of the film. I think it's Sylvia Hoeks' Love. I think she, like I've said before, totally outshines Leto for me and makes him, to be honest, pretty unnecessary. Like, to that point, I think it's a fantastic performance and it's a brilliant villain. It's almost like a Bond baddie. It's got that real vibe to it and a real troubled character. There's a lot here to her programming, which is it kind of bounces off Joy. It's that kind of counterbalance to that. It's more of the nasty and negative emotions that can be programmed into something, and how she taps into this kind of needing to please this God kind of character, and that's her destiny. That is all her character is good for. And the fact that she's dressed in white all the time, the fact that she denies her name, the fact that she's just got all of these really brilliant moments and plays the brutality brilliantly without overplaying it, though.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it so many times where there's a female character like this and they're given this kind of situation to go in. When she goes in and gets Rachel's bones and kills the scientist.
Oh, yeah. Hits him on the back of the head.
Yeah, it's just brutal. Just bang, he's out. And that's all she needs to do. At the same time, that's quite sympathetic. But is it? Because she's kind of like, well, that's maybe the quickest way I can kill him with my programming.
Yeah.
And she never, ever seems hammy as a bad guy. I'm excited when she's on the screen because I'm thinking something's going to happen here. But it's just the performance from Sylvia Hoeks. I think she's just absolutely fantastic and disappears into the role. Wonderful, wonderful bad guy for me. And leaves Leto in the wings. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I like Love as well. She's kind of a female Terminator, basically. So
more or
not a
less.
huge amount going on, maybe, but I think Sylvia Hoeks is great. I love her line delivery when she kills Joshi and she says to her, "You tiny thing in the face of the fabulous new, your only thought is to kill it." I mean, I imagine the fabulous new is not an easy line to deliver, but you don't even notice. She totally nails it. And when she scans Joshi to get into the computer and lets her head just bounce off the desk.
Oh, that's
Brutal.
Yeah.
I think my main criticism of the film comes around Love, in that, if anything, I agree, Westy. I think she's underused. I think the film might have benefited from a B plot, and that could have been Love carrying out her own investigation into the child at the same time Kay's.
Yeah.
And there's some definite parallels between Love and Kay in that they both want to find the child to further their own race. That could have been made more of, maybe.
Yeah.
But she's excellent. And when she kills Joy by stomping on the Emanator, that's when you know she's got to go.
Yeah.
And she's like, bad dog. That's great as well.
But in the first drafts of the script, Love was named Fraser, and Nyanda Wallace would call her Love, L-O-V-E, as a term of endearment, and this changed to Love, L-U-V, becoming her name.
Yeah. Like, all right, Love. And I guess we have love and joy is the idea. It's like
Yeah, I
inside
think
out
so.
characters.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Imagine these two in Inside Out, me and mate. Punching sadness in the back of the head. Shut the fuck
Cheer up, man.
Cheer up and bleeding out. Sylvia Hogue said that when she was describing Love's backstory, Villeneuve said that she was made 12 years ago. So Hogue's had this idea of making her behave like an immature and petulant 12-year-old.
Yeah, that explains the tantrums then, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
When she crushes Josh's hand into the glass.
Yeah.
Brutal that.
It's horrible, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our main cast. Ryan Gosling carrying the film as Kate, Harrison Ford bringing it all back home as Deckard, and top supporting work from Ana de Armas and Sylvia Hawkes. Whether human, replicant, or hologram, they all bring something to the film.
Absolutely.
The middle.
Heading into the middle act of Blade Runner 2049, and Kate's investigation leads him into darker territory. We're going to be looking at the scenes where Kate discovers he might be the chosen one when he visits Dr. Anna Stelline. But first, it's a journey to an orphanage, isn't it?
It is.
So, having discovered the miracle child's DNA records, Kate traces the trail to San Diego's Moral Coal Orphanage, built in the ruins of a satellite dish. But he's not alone. Love's tracking his every move from Wallace Corp. Kate shot down by scavengers, Love bombs the hell out of them, and Kate discovers something that will change his understanding of life. So, Westy, how does this play out for you?
Yeah, it plays out beautifully for me. I love that moment. Obviously, he's a replicant, so he has to crash when it rains, because when rain happens, it's going to be a negative turn for a replicant, isn't it? So let's put that in there, which is great. But I love the way the scavengers fire that thing. It's like really Mad Max, and it slows them down a bit, but then the EMP goes off, and everything shuts down. And more importantly, Joy shuts down. Joy glitches out, which I find heartbreaking, because she kind of just like reaches out and then disappears. Yeah. And the whole thing crashes down. It's absolutely fantastic. And then she's just outside, like reaching in, and it's just heartbreaking, and she can't like wake him up or do anything with it. But it's when he comes out of the spinner, it's the lighting in this sequence. It's just so consistent and just so beautifully done. And here we have an action sequence, but we have a Denis Villeneuve action sequence.
Yeah.
So I've counted this. So from when the first explosion goes off, there's explosions, by the way. We're talking about 3 big explosions. People blown up. 7 cuts. That's it.
Right.
Then it cuts to Love, doing her nails, looking up, which is perfect. Her eyes are covered. Again, she doesn't have a soul. It's a lack of humanity. Her nails are getting done. She doesn't care that she's killing people. She's having a great time, to be honest. She's just getting the job done. Cuts back to Kay, another 7 cuts. Then it cuts back to Love again. The scene plays out, and she asks him to get up, and then he gets up. So we've got an action sequence with explosions, and there's only 14 cuts. It's on a shot on a single camera. It's just so well thought through, so well refined. We've got stunt work in the middle of that. We've got people flying over the camera. We've got people. We've got Kay getting fired against the spinner. You say, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to shoot it? None of it's really wide. Everything's considered in like a mid shot. They know exactly who's going where and what's going to happen. But it's Villeneuve, just his control over an action sequence. It's so Nolan-esque. And to be honest, I looked at it and I was kind of like, please turn this into Space Under a little bit, but they didn't, which is a bit of a letdown.
Ironside turning up.
Yeah, perfect opportunity. You could have had that, the pirate ship on the rail track over the top. That would have been great. Scavengers everywhere. But yeah, I mean, it would have been... It's just so well thought through, and it would have been so distracting from the story to have a massive set piece in here with Kay behind the spinner and shooting all the scavengers, they're falling down and they're spinning out all over the place. Doesn't need it. Explosions, 7 cuts, back to Love, humanity, story, 7 cuts. Kay wakes up, on with the story. Perfect.
I mean, those wide shots showing them leaving LA, going to the orphanage in the spinner, stunning again. So San Diego is now like a desolate wasteland, basically. Villeneuve's using every inch of like the post-apocalypse textbook. You're right, Wesley. This is Mad Max style dystopian future, or space under, if you prefer.
Thank you.
So the visuals are great, and not just the cinematography, but there's some great visual ideas. I love that bit as well after the crash, where Joy's like blinking in and out over Kay.
Yeah.
She's checking that he's all right, but then she vanishes to reveal the scavengers behind her.
Yeah.
Great.
Brilliant.
And I know I mentioned Fawlty Towers way too much.
Oh, no! I can't believe he's done it. You haven't got it in Blade Runner 2049. You cannot have.
But with Ana de Armas' Cuban accent, she reminds me of Manuel, the way she's like, K, over and over again.
I learned it from a book.
I can speak English.
Hammer sandwich.
But yeah, it's the visuals altogether. And using imagery to develop a world, that's something the first Blade Runner does amazingly well. And I think this sequence does the same thing. It's great.
Yeah, and after this, we go into the orphanage itself. I think Lenny James is great here.
He is.
Yeah.
And I think this scene breaks a lot of people. You're either in at this point, or this is where you go, this isn't for me, because it gets so drawn out. It slows down so much because the tension of Kay finding the book with the pages torn out, that agonizingly slow walk to the furnace to find the horse. So it's very slow, but it's so compelling, and a lot of clues are being drawn together. And I think the biggest clue, though, and do correct me if I've got this wrong, but in the orphanage, all the boys have shaved heads.
Yes.
Whereas in Kay's implanted memory, where he thinks he's being chased by the other boys, he has a full head of hair. So that's not actually a young boy, that's a young Anna.
Yeah,
which we
well
discover
spotted.
later. And Villeneuve is playing on the fact that, she looks slightly androgynous. She's wearing gender neutral clothes, just kind of rags really, to disguise that fact. Now, I'm not going to claim, I discovered that in the first watch. It was only probably like fifth or sixth. It was like, oh my God, that's Anna. That's not Kay. But that's the kind of clue that I love, like discovering on future like rewatches.
And you would never notice the first time round. It's always
definitely didn't.
Rewatch.
I noticed it first time round, obviously.
Oh, God.
Nah, of course I didn't. Shut up.
And surely the guy who played by Lenny James, who leads the orphans, is inspired to some extent by Fagin from Oliver.
It's very Oliver. Yeah.
It really is. All these scruffy kids doing his bidding. I'm waiting for them to burst into song or something. He's called Mr. Cotton as well, which is a pretty Dickensian sounding name.
It is, yes. Yeah.
But again, this is a proper investigation film, and we'll see more of it here. Kay finds record that shows two children with identical DNA and the wooden horse hidden where he remembers hiding it. And the way Gosling plays that moment's great. No words, but you get these trying to piece together in his head what's going on. I always feel that he's like, holy moly. I mean, he doesn't say that, thankfully, but worst line ever. But again, the production design of the orphanage, how good's that? Top class.
And the wastelands around the orphanage, they were filmed with a combination of miniature models, a custom-built set, and green screen by Framestore. And Rodeo FX did the orphanage itself. Again, the filming was done in Budapest, with many of the sets only a minute's walk from one another.
The original Blade Runner was co-written by David Webb Peoples, and there's a bit of a nod to him in this sequence. Peoples also wrote Soldier in 1998 and said that, in his mind, the film was set in the Blade Runner universe.
It's no one else's mind, just his.
Starring Kurt Russell, if we can remember that one. The design of the big garbage dumpers we see here are almost identical to the ones we see in Soldier.
Yeah. Kurt Russell is the redeeming feature there, I think.
That's right, yeah. I mean, Peoples is like, I recognise them, and then Villeneuve was like, oh yeah, we just found them out the back. They've been no one else has used them since 98, mate. It's a nod to me that. Yes, of course it is, David.
So that's Kay at the orphanage. Missile strikes, childhood memories, and more impossible discoveries. He's starting to believe he might be the miracle child. Should we see if he's right?
Let's see if he's right.
From there, Kay's investigation leads him to Stelline Laboratories and Dr. Anna Stelline, the replicant memory maker played by Carla Juri. What he discovers will confirm his suspicions. His memories are real. Around the same time, Kay takes Joy off-grid with an emanator, and in a scene that pushes all kinds of boundaries, she arranges a get-together with replicant prostitute Mariette, played by Mackenzie Davis, at Kay's place. Matt, are you taking Anna Stelline or the apartment encounter?
I'll go for Stelline, because this is another scene that repays a lot on repeat viewings, because knowing what we know by the end, that reason she gives of being isolated because her parents put her in this dorm, basically, because she has a compromised immune system. We know that's a lie. That's not what happened. And I think Carla Juri is so good here.
Mm-hmm.
She's got this very light, ethereal quality to this performance, which I think contrasts so well to like the tension you get in Gosling's performance. And she should be miserable to stuck in this dorm, but she's making these memories. She's playing with imagery and sound. Like this character, to me, it almost feels like this is the one that Villeneuve most empathizes with. You get the impression that like he'd be all right if that was his existence in a way, just making like visuals and sounds for people. But this is obviously when you start to get the ambiguity of this memory that Kay has, her reaction to it when she sees it. She clearly recognizes it as her own memory, which will all eventually tie in with the revelation that she's Deckard's daughter. So many seeds are being planted here, but they're not hammered home. And you're also getting to see one of my favorite images of the film where she's looking through the viewfinder and we know Kay's on the other side, so he's looking at her, but his reflection is behind her.
Yeah.
So it's like he's looking over her shoulder at the same
Yeah.
time. So there's a lot that's packed in this scene, but it's just played with such a lightness of touch.
It really is. I mean, a director has to have some level of expertise in like lots of different kinds of creativity, I think, in overseeing a film. And one of the things I always look for is how they handle exposition scenes.
Yeah.
Moments where like the most important thing is the words being said. That's kind of the case here, where Anna explains who she is, which is obviously important later, and how memories work. And they do it sitting in a big empty room because she's in quarantine. So the challenge Villeneuve has is to make it not dull. And I don't think it is at all. Quite the opposite.
No, definitely not.
I like how subtle the visuals are. Those like birthday party memories as holograms around them.
Yeah.
They're great. And I agree, Matt. Carla Juri as Anna. She doesn't have much to do, but I think she's really good. She's got this real warmth, like isolated from the world, but creating connections for others. Like this great lady.
Yeah.
And after being reserved for the entire film, how great is it when Kay and Gosling let loose? When he's like, God damn it.
Yeah,
it's
it's
great.
amazing. Yeah, it's
Love it.
so good. Really powerful. Because he's just, you can see him building, he's like, I know it's true. And it's like,
Yeah.
And he just like, it's just that delivery's perfect.
It is.
It's her delivery as well. It's just crying, knowing the truth. And she's looking at it and she's kind of like, oh, she is so memorable, but so warm. And she just reminds me of like a teacher I would have in like infant school. Who's like my favorite teacher?
And the kids all love her. Yeah.
And the kids all love her. And she's like, oh yes, we've got this. We've got her today. She's like great fun, and she's just got loads of patience, and she's like really warm. That's what she reminds of. It's a fantastic performance. Great character, really memorable.
I agree. Yeah, I think she's great. And it's an exposition scene that doesn't really feel like exposition, which is how it is where it's done well, I think. Yeah.
And after working with Villeneuve on Sicario, it was reported that Emily Blunt had been offered a part in Blade Runner, but had to say no as she was pregnant at the time. It's not been said what the role was, but it must have either been Anna Stelline or Love.
So Carla Juri got the part after auditioning, and apparently because the script was so secretive, she auditioned by doing a scene from Ex Machina.
Oh, nice. The dance.
Yeah. The dancing one, yeah, the dancing one.
Was it? So leaving me with this scene, obviously, it's the threesome between, the prostitute, and you've got Joy and you've got Kay, and they're all coming together, and you have this incredible moment in Kay's apartment. But I think the visuals and the idea behind this sequence is absolutely incredible. This is an episode of Black Mirror in about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought it was your Black Anna there.
Imagine. Flashard comes in. Woof! Just kicks the door down. That'll be amazing. I'll be up for that. But no, I mean, it's not even 8 minutes, is it? Let's just say like 4 minutes. But the idea behind it. So you've got an AI, and then you've got a replicant, which is the step up, and then you've got a human. So the AI wants to be a replicant. It wants to be able to go wherever it wants. The replicant wants to be human. But he can't, and it can't be human. But the human just wants to be loved and wants connection and can't find that. So there's all these steps of this kind of need and the 3 levels of being that are coming together to try and find some kind of necessary connection between all 3 of them. And none of them can find it. I don't think they get any peace here. I don't think they get any pleasure out of this whatsoever. I think that's the whole point. And I'm so pleased that Villeneuve played this the way he did, because there's a real subtle poetry to this, especially when they get both getting undressed. I mean, when they come together, the visuals that are just absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's the whole point. It's like, is Joy breaking our programming here? And then what does it do? It cuts to the billboard, and you just have everything you want to hear, everything you want to see, and Joy. That's her programming, and that's exactly what she's done for Kay.
I mean, when I heard they were making a Blade Runner sequel, there were a few things I was expecting to see, but a threesome probably wasn't one of them.
No.
But I agree, Westy. I think it's really like tastefully done. It's not gratuitous. Yeah, it's like relevant to the themes of the film. But I think the effects were kind of joining Joy and Mariette together.
it's unbelievable.
Looks brilliant.
Yeah,
That bit when the faces align and it looks like a third person.
Yeah.
Part Ana de Armas, part Mackenzie Davis, which that's no bad thing, obviously.
Obviously
but
not.
also works as a metaphor for what's happening. Kay's trying to create something real out of two people who get called artificial.
Yeah.
But maybe most interesting to me is when Mariette says to Joy, I've been inside you, not as much there as you think. Because Mariette seems to look down on Joy the same way humans do on replicants a bit. So,
exactly.
again, replicants behaving like humans. It's so well shot. And the way the two women face in and out of sync, I find it all quite mesmerizing to watch. I think it's great.
I think it's just visually poetic.
And this threesome scene was shot for real, without any green screen and minimal CGI. Villeneuve didn't want them to be perfectly in sync, so they filmed Ryan Gosling and Mackenzie Davis first, and she had freedom to do what she liked. They then filmed it with Ana de Armas, and the effects supervisor John Nelson directed her from behind the camera, so Joy is close to mimicking Mariette, but not perfectly in line.
Yeah, I think they recorded it with 4 GoPro cameras in the corners of the room to ensure they had it from every angle. And from that, they could like triangulate how it should then look on Roger Deakins' camera, the main one. It's pretty clever,
Yeah.
And we made it through the middle of Blade Runner 2049. Kay has discovered his true identity, or he thinks he has. Joy is trying to become a real girl, or Kay thinks she is. Time to talk about some of the crew behind the camera, I think.
Yeah, let's do that.
The crew.
As we've been talking about, Denis Villeneuve worked with a huge crew to bring Blade Runner 2049 to life. We're going to be talking about Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfish, who created the soundtrack, as well as the stunning visuals from DP, Roger Deakins, and the effects teams. But first, let's talk about the screenplay, should we?
Let's do it.
The credited screenwriters on Blade Runner 2049 were Hampton Fancher and Michael Green. Fancher co-wrote the original Blade Runner in 1982, so was brought back by Ridley Scott. And Michael Green was less experienced, but had a notable CV of his own with credits on Alien Covenant and Logan. How did they do as the writers here, though, Matt?
I find there's this like real tension in the writing because the original is so much about the atmosphere that the plot takes a backseat. In this one, it goes right back into that atmosphere, but it also tries to be more plot driven at the same time with this mystery. And I think just occasionally there's this tension where it doesn't quite get the balance right. So the atmosphere is slow and languid, but the plot kind of wants to get a move on, and it can be a bit hard to follow at times. And there are moments where I think, is this being deliberately vague, or did I miss something? You know, why does Kay have the horse memory? Is that just a huge coincidence? Is it there on purpose? Is it just left for you to make your own mind up, in which case fine, but it's something that just stands out a little bit. And I think there's just the occasional plot hole stands out, like Love, not once but twice, just seemingly strolls into police headquarters and straight up brutally murders someone, and then gets out again with no problem. Which again, because there's so much to take in, those things don't hit you at first, but when you come back to think, well, hang on, that doesn't quite hang together. What it wants to talk about, what it means to be human, what the memories mean, what's it mean to be important. That's fantastic. All that's great. So how it talks about it, though, where I think it just changed itself to this plot where afterwards you go, hang on a minute, there are just these moments for me that it doesn't quite gel. So it's really good, but only up until a certain point with the plot where it just gets a little wobbly at times.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when I first saw the film, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with the writing because, like the first one, it explores pretty deep themes around existentialism and what it means to be human, like you're saying. Where I was a little disappointed, though, was that I thought it was exploring the same themes as the first film. As I've watched it more, though, I've come to appreciate it more because I think it does what the first film does, but does spin it a bit and comes at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things I've seen the film get criticised for in the writing. One is being too slow.
Yeah.
I don't mind the pacing, but I get the criticism. What doesn't help, like I mentioned, is there's no B plot. It's all K, and I think it might have benefited from seeing more of what Love's up to, or the replicant resistance we see at the end, something to cut away to that ties in.
Yeah.
But another criticism I've seen that I don't agree with is people saying, so we still don't know if Deckard's a replicant or a human then. What's the point?
Yeah.
But not revealing that is the right choice for me.
Great.
It's one of those things where the question is way more interesting than the answer could ever be.
Not revealing that is the point.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't know. That is the point. Because if we can't tell the difference between human and replicant, how can we say there is a difference?
Exactly.
So on the whole, I think this is how you write a sequel to a classic. You don't try to recreate it or go for lots of nostalgia. You continue the discussion in a way that's interesting with some new ideas. Ideally, that's what this does. There could have been more going on plot-wise, maybe, but I think the hardest bit, exploring the themes, I think it does that really well.
Yeah, I think bringing the whole world back to life, but the evolution of that world, and the evolution isn't positive, which again could have been a massive downer, and they could have played on that, but they don't really. Again, it's the human elements of it that push through that really, really work for me. And the amount of times that we've spoke about writing on any classic episode, and I've always wanted to get to the point where is the one that's really close to being what we're seeing on the screen that's actually on the page. And I think this is one that's really close to that. And I think Villeneuve's just really, really honest with that source material, and he's really honest with that screenplay and doesn't deviate from it, where you have that deliberate pacing, and I think that works. And it does tap into that noir element because you need that space and you need that time. And there's elements to the puzzle that are confusing, but then again, it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to know what's going on. You're supposed to be kind of pulled from pillar to post a little bit, and you're supposed to be in the same shoes as Kay, I guess. Of course it's going to be long. It's deliberately long. Of course it's going to be kind of trampled a little bit because it needs to be. It needs to leave the viewer guessing, and it needs to leave you engaged. And in the world of cinema, especially since 2017 to now, you need to have a lot of questions thrown in, but you need to have a lot of answers thrown in as well. And when you don't have the answers, it's frustrating. But what this does is it raises more questions than it does answers, but the answers you get are really satisfying. And the questions that you get, I'm quite happy to leave as questions. And I think they did all of that in the screenplay, and it really comes together.
So when Blade Runner 2049 started moving forward, Fancher was invited back to write it by Ridley Scott, and Scott said Fancher's response when he asked him was, "Oh, not again." So
Brilliant.
Fancher ended up writing the story as a 110-page novella, and that was then handed to Michael Green, who had worked with Scott on Alien Covenant, to turn it into a screenplay.
Oh, not again. That's what I was thinking at first as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what everyone was thinking.
Yeah.
Michael Green said that Fancher's original draft was called Acid Zoo, and that Deckard died at the end. So that was swiftly changed, I imagine.
So speaking of crazy titles, let's see if there's any others. So the other titles were considered as well. One working title was Queensborough, after the bridge that Andrew Kosovo had crossed when he met up with Fancher. So keeping it together, keeping it personal. To keep it secret, the production title was Triborough, after another bridge. They love bridges, these guys. Like this name after a suggestion for the actual title was Android's Dream. And the one that came closest to being used was Blade Runner, Time to Live.
Right, yeah. Well, Roy Batty's final words are "time to die" in the first one, aren't they?
Yeah.
A little bit on the nose, maybe.
Maybe. It sounds a bit more like a computer game.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
And the new characters were given names to tie into the themes as well. So Neander Wallace's name comes from Neanderthal, a species of humans that lived alongside Homo sapiens before dying out about 40,000 years ago. And then the name anistelline, that's similar to anistellin, which is a peptide studied for its anti-cancer properties, although there's no evidence in the film this was intentional.
We mentioned Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov earlier as being part of the baseline test, if you remember.
Yes.
And we see it in the film as well.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Kay's reading it in his apartment and Joy picks it up and makes it very obvious what she's holding, I think.
Yeah.
She really does.
Yeah.
Nabokov also wrote Lolita.
Yes,
Imagine he'd be reading that.
There you go.
Let's leave that there.
Imagine if Kubrick did Pale Fire.
And when Kay and Joy go on the roof of Kay's apartment, there's a pretty big sign saying Mobius 21.
Yes.
Dennis Gassner added that as a reference to the artist Mobius, whose illustrations had influenced the look of the original Blade Runner.
Yeah, that's right. Great.
Okay.
Love
So
that,
yeah,
yeah.
they do like a reference in this film.
Nice.
Before we finish on the writers, we have our next ATRM Patreon question. It's on the themes of the film and comes from Gareth Binmore.
Hello, Gareth.
Hello, Gareth.
So Gareth asks, do you think Blade Runner 2049 ultimately argues that humanity is defined by our memories, our choices, or something else entirely? And how does that compare to the message of the original film? Deep question from Gareth.
Yeah,
So,
that's a deep one.
what do you think, Matt?
I feel like I need to deliver a 5,000-word essay by the end of the week on this one. What do we define by in this one? I think it's choices for me, because this film explicitly states that memories can be created and they won't necessarily be your own, and they can be manufactured by someone else for their reason, not yours, whereas people can try and force you to make a choice, but it's ultimately up to you to make it, which Kay does at the end. And maybe humanity is making a choice that's a difficult one as opposed to an easy one, which again I think is what Kay does at the end. And then compared to the original one, I feel like the original one asked the question, and this is the one that answers it really. Because the first one does kind of say, what does it mean to be human? And I think this one answers that.
Well, yeah, I think Gareth's kind of hit on what makes this work from a writing point of view that we're talking about. It develops the questions asked in the original. The first Blade Runner frames humanity through like empathy and experience, where the Voight Kampf test literally measures empathy.
Yeah.
Do you feel sorry for a tortoise on its back? It asks. That's what makes you human. But 2049 says, yeah, it's about choice. The baseline test measures obedience. It's making sure that Cade doesn't choose.
Yeah.
And he goes on to make choices that define him and the narrative. And what I notice as well is what's not said. Neither film even suggests that it's biology that makes you human. It's what's inside you spiritually and psychologically, they both say, which is interesting.
Yeah, like you just touched on there, John, I don't think it's about anything physical, but for me, it's about free will. And I think Gareth's question answers itself. Is it defined by our memories or our choices? But I think our choices then define our memories. So it's what you choose to do then gives you the memories. And I think what Batty does at the end of the first one, he says, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And he lists all the things he's seen, but that wasn't his choice to see them. And that's the whole point of this, is that Kay puts himself in places that he wants to be. And he makes a choice at the end that Deckard died out there, you drowned out there. Now I'm going to take you to your daughter. I've made a choice, and that's my memory, and that's his last memory, and what leaves him to ultimately be the hero and to die a human in his own mind, because he made a choice and created his own memory of that choice.
Well, for their work on Blade Runner 2049, Hampton Fancher and Michael Green were not nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. Michael Green was nominated for Logan, but lost out to James Ivory for Call Me By Your Name.
All right, yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
For us, though, in writing a sequel that explores new ground in a familiar world, some good science fiction writing from Fancher and Green.
I think it's lovely stuff.
Lovely stuff.
Not my words. I think that's insulting, isn't it, to say it's lovely stuff. I think it's really fascinating, really deep, and really excellent stuff. It's excellent. It's really excellent, to be fair.
From the writing, it's onto the music, and the composers of Blade Runner 2049 were Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch. Zimmer needs no introduction, legendary composer behind countless major films, and Benjamin Wallfisch had composed for 21 films before this, the most well-known, probably the remake of It in 2017. Following on from Vangelis in the first film's no easy task, Westy.
No.
So how did Zimmer and Wallfisch do?
Pretty well, didn't they? I mean, they did all right, let's be honest.
Did all right.
Yeah, I'd never listened to this in its own right prior to this podcast, actually. Just now I thought, well, I need to actually dive into this soundtrack because it is so intertwined with the visuals, and they create these huge soundscapes, these big booms, these big sound effects that kind of tie into it. And then you get them nods to Vangelis, but just in the sound, them synth sounds, and they all got these sweeping motions. It all sounds like the water that we get at the end. It all sounds like the whole soundtrack is crashing against that seawall. It's all spinners, it's all in the air, it's all just this big imposing sense of doom and sense of dread that's just hanging over the whole place. And then other times it's the clouds, and it's just, you know, the actual lack of rays of sunshine. There's nothing definite punching through. There's not a definite instrument punching through. There's not a definite score or a theme or anything you can cling onto. It is just a really beautiful mass of soundscape and feel. So I think between the two of them, what Zimmer does is he brings that real musicianship of Vangelis, and then he knows what notes he needs to play. And he knows exactly how to put them notes together to create that kind of flow musically. And then what Wallfisch does is he just adds this texture. There's a real texture put on top of it and real texture wrapped around it to make sure it's in that Blade Runner world. But it never ever seems messy, and it never seems over the top, and it never outshines the visuals. It always just sits there and it works really well. And I'm so surprised that this was such a big seller. Like, people buying this on vinyl. I'm not going to stick this on like on a Sunday night and just, let's get that Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack on. Boom, cheese on toast. Boom, just trying to relax. But it really works. It's fantastic. Listening to it again, I mean, I listened to it like twice, just driving to work and back, and it was just a beautiful thing because you get lost in it.
Yeah, I mean, when we say a soundtrack, we typically mean like an album or the pieces of music in a film.
Yeah.
Obviously, the name comes from being the track in the mix, which has the sound on it. And when I think of the score in this film, that's what I think of. It's a soundtrack.
Yeah.
There's this like crossover between the sound design and the score, where sometimes I'm not sure which I'm listening to, whether I'm not sure if it's diegetic or non-diegetic.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that big kind of booming foghorn sound that we hear all the way through.
Yeah.
That is classic Zimmer. He loves that.
Yeah, he's done that since year dot, hasn't he? It's really jarring though if you're listening to this and you're driving and then Suspicious Minds comes on. What? Really jarring.
But that, to me, that noise is like the noise of this world. And to take a lead from Vangelis in terms of the future sounding synths, we hear the Tears and Rain music a couple of times as well.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure I'd call this top tier Hans Zimmer, but it does do what the best film music tends to. It doesn't just accompany the images, it kind of completes them, I think.
The first composer hired to work on the film was Johan Johansson, who worked with Villeneuve on Prisoners and Sicario and Arrival before this. But after he started delivering the first samples, Villeneuve wasn't massively impressed. He wanted to move closer to what Vangelis had done on the first film, so brought in Hans Zimmer instead. That's exactly what I'm saying. I think that what Johansson would have done, looking at the score for Arrival, which is just pure soundscape.
Well, for Johansson, 3 films with Villeneuve and then kicked off the biggest one, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you?
Ah, bless him, I. Yeah.
And Zimmer was scheduled to go on tour in the middle of production, so he brought in Benjamin Wallfish as his co-writer, and they'd already worked together on Hidden Figures, which is where his involvement came from.
Yeah, doing research for this, I realised that he wrote a track for Zimmer's score for Dunkirk as well. Benjamin Wallfish.
Right,
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of that sound, the loud noise that appears throughout the score began as a male choir sample that Benjamin Wallfish ran through a series of electronic filters again and again until it sounded mechanical.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would never have said a male choir in a million.
No, you can't really hear it. No, you
Not
can't.
at all, no.
It's like human voices made inhuman, which is kind of the theme in audio.
That's the whole point,
that's
isn't it? Yeah, I love
pretty
that.
genius, yeah.
And there was some deliberately chosen sound effects as well. The Wallace Corporation's alert sound is the Prokofiev's 1936 Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah, that sounds really authentic. I love it.
Yeah,
That's the sort of thing that Apple would do, like a little jingle
Yes.
when Joy powers on. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
That nods to the Russian as well, that Russian theme that also over the top.
Yeah.
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 And the sound designer, Mark Mangini, said that he took the sound of the spinners from a bull roarer, which is an instrument indigenous Australian cultures would swing above their heads to make a distinctive sound.
Which is featured quite heavily in Crocodile Dundee 2, if you want to check that out.
Yeah, I think Mark Mangini said that he uses visual metaphors to find the sonic metaphors. That's a good example of it, like the spinning bull roarer for the spinner vehicle.
Yeah.
Works really well.
And Villeneuve liked the sound of the spinner, but told Mangini that it needed to sound old. So Mangini recorded his wife's Honda and incorporated that into the sound of the spinner as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then they manipulated that to give it different versions, like the spinner flying past camera or the spinner
Right.
when we're inside it with K, so it sounds different.
Right.
All works really well, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Alexander Desplat won the Oscar that year for Best Original Score for The Shape of Water, but in creating a huge soundscape that follows Vangelis while giving Villeneuve something new, we're fans of what Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfish do here.
Yeah,
Very much.
absolutely. The more I listen to it, the better it gets.
From the soundscape to the images and the director of photography and visual effects studios, the DP was Roger Deakins, as we've mentioned, another industry legend. He'd shot The Shawshank Redemption, The Assassination of Jesse James, Skyfall, among lots of others, and had just worked with Villeneuve on Prisoners and Sicario. And the effects team was headed up by John Nelson and Paul Lambert, working with multiple studios like Framestore, Weta Workshop, MPC, and Double Negative, among others. So, Westy, how does the film look? Deakins for you, is it?
I mean, yeah. That's it, isn't it? That's it.
Of course.
It's just, it was the first shot. I'm done. I'm in 100%. It's absolutely flawless work. I mean, just the lighting design alone is so Deakins, but it's so much more intricate. The way he uses light as a character in this is just incredible. The light and the shadow all play a part. It's shot on the RE Alexa again. And the amazing thing about this is he always shoots on a single camera. There's always a single camera setup. They're not doing explosion sequences with like 3 or 4 different cameras everywhere to get different angles. So everything's just so well considered. And the other thing to note as well, for anyone who's really bothered and, you know, kind of listens to what I say on these, this wasn't shot anamorphic, which the first Blade Runner was, which gives a lot more depth to the frame, gives a lot more of a cinematic kind of feel. The bokeh's different. It's got like it's less spherical, where this is shot actually spherical on Zeiss Master Primes, so it gives it more of an architectural photography look. It's very, very symmetrical, and you've got this. The lines are straight, but all the way through this film, there's just an absolute quality running through the whole feel of it. And you know, from the lighting design, even if you look at the Wallace Temple, and then look at Vegas, but then look at the opening on Sapper's Farm. Now, Sapper's Farm has 2 lights and windows and silhouetted, but the blacks are just as beautiful. The lighting's just as considered. It tells the story just as well as Vegas does. That's silhouetted, that's beautiful. But you don't look at one scene and go, that really stands out.
Yeah.
That's the scene of Blade Runner there, even though it is more like, I mean, but every single shot of this is a screensaver. Every single element
really
of this film is you can pause it and hang it on your wall. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. And I'm honestly not surprised after he won the Oscar for this that he just kind of went, you know what, I think I've kind of done it now. I'm just going to do little bits and bobs and maybe do a podcast, but I think that's about it, if I'm completely honest with you. And taking nothing away from Greg Fraser, but Dune wouldn't look half as good if Deakins hadn't done the work he did on this.
I mean, like we've been saying about lots of aspects of the filmmaking, yeah, I think the cinematography manages to tie in with the first film while also doing its own thing.
Yeah.
The original's really dark, really rainy. Yeah, there's loads of bright, striking colours. We get snow, so it does look different, but still fits somehow. And visually, I just love it. I mean, whereas the original was lots of cramped interiors and close sets, probably because of the smaller budget. Yeah, Deakins opens it right up. Huge farms, massive wastelands like we've talked about. I mean, it is beyond something to look at. Every frame is like a painting. And the use of colour always stands out. The neon pink of the Joyads and that outrageous orange Las Vegas that we'll talk about is just incredible. But I think they use colour to tell us where we are emotionally and tell the story. LA is like dark and dingy. And then when we go to Selene Laboratories, that's more like white, sterile white. It's snowing outside, which I think represents Anna's kind of purity as the miracle child, I'm guessing. So each environment does have its own kind of visual language.
Yeah.
And working with Villeneuve, who loves a long take, Deakins creates these moments where I always just kind of want to pause the film and just stare at it. But it never feels indulgent either. It is a masterclass in cinematography, I think, one of the best examples of big-scale science fiction cinematography we've ever seen, surely.
I mean, I just think sometimes aspects come up in these podcasts where you almost have to admit defeat and go, there's nothing that I can say that sheds illumination on this. Like, I've got nothing insightful to say about this because it speaks for itself on such a level. Like, you don't need to listen to me, just go and look at it. For God's sake, like, everything you just said. Like, so if I'm going to add anything, it just feels like the amount of challenges he set himself that he didn't need to, but he did anyway. And I'll go back to the interiors of Wallace's Temple. Does it need all those lapping reflections of the water? Again, I mean, I have no idea how complex that setup would be. No, doesn't need it. It looks insanely difficult. I would definitely not do it, but he does. And if Deakins can do it, let him do it. So this is absolutely one of those where you just go, you know what? The work does all its own talking here.
And as well, I think you can see Ridley Scott was on set for some of this.
Yeah.
And Villeneuve said that after he accepted the job as director of Blade Runner, he was having dinner with Deakins that same night, and they prepared by holing up in a Montreal hotel for a month with the storyboard artists Sam Hudecki and Daryl Henley to storyboard the entire film.
Yeah, he said they came up with some visual ideas that were so crazy that they had to have the screenplay rewritten afterwards to accommodate them all.
Wow.
He's very big on storyboarding, it seems like, Villeneuve, I think.
I think it comes from the Coens as well. He loves that kind of level of control.
Yeah, they love a storyboard, don't they? Yeah.
Deakins had a hand in designing the huge pink version of Joy we see towards the end as well. The makeup department head was Donald Moat, and he said that Villeneuve's brief for that segment was, I want it to be pink. So Moat spoke to Deakins and he said, he means bubblegum pink. Do that and you'll be fine. So they did, and Villeneuve approved it.
And that shot of Joy towering above Kay, it's ridiculous.
It's
one of the defining shots of the film, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And her hair in that as well, that blue Sphinx kind of cut. Apparently that was just some cheap wig because they didn't have time to get anything else. But still, Deakins makes it look good, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the visual effects because I think the thing I was most worried about with this sequel was, would they capture the feel of the original or would they update it too much? Like,
yeah.
One of the big problems with the Star Wars prequels is the technology was so much more advanced that the prequels look like in the future, not the past of that particular universe, which I found really difficult to kind of get past. But here, the effects work is so well done because it looks like Blade Runner, but it does look like it's moved on, but not to the point where it's unrecognizable. And it has that tactility that the first one has, where, I feel I can reach in and I can touch this world like it did with the first. And it does that thing where it blends the use of CG and model work and miniatures and practical effects so brilliantly that there's so many shots where I go, I generally can't tell which one of those disciplines this shot belongs to. And I think that's how you use visual effects.
Definitely, yeah, you're right. There's miniatures, there's scale models, there's green screen, practical and digital. The blend is just like so well done.
Yeah.
And I know that Villeneuve said that the reason he likes to have some practical effects is because he thinks it makes it easier for the cast to immerse themselves in the world.
Yeah, 100%.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And that must help with the cinematography as well. Having it all looking on set, pretty much how it's going to look on film, must inspire ideas for Deakins and everybody else, for that matter.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's some amazing before and after shots. I'm sure we've put it on our Twitter as well. With the green screen, so actually on the set, and you can see the before and afters and how little they actually used and filled in. It's incredible work.
Well, that's it. Yeah, everything starts as a real set with real props, and then they build around it with digital enhancements. So the farms were a real place with digital added. The orphanage is a real set with a digital background. The spinner's a real prop vehicle they've built, and then add digital elements to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, watching sequences where the digital's done by the studio who did Gravity in Frame Store, the miniatures are done by the team who did Lord of the Rings in Weta Workshop, it's shot by Roger Deakins. I mean, no wonder it looks so good.
Yeah.
It's like an incredible array of talent.
Another classic Blade Runner visual they brought back from the original is the neon corporate logos. They carried it on from the first film as well. Pan Am and Atari haven't been around properly since the 90s, but we'll see them both here.
Well, I saw an interview with Ryan Gosling, and he said that Villeneuve told him this is a world where Apple never existed. So technology focuses on function rather than aesthetics and how it looks.
Nice Sony logo in there as well, because they distributed the film, didn't they?
Yeah, great.
Nice little sneaky nod.
For his work on Blade Runner 2049, Roger Deakins finally, after 13 previous nominations, won his first Oscar for Best Cinematography.
Yeah.
About time, Westy.
Absolutely, 100%. I totally punched the air when that happened. I went to bed thinking, I'm not going to watch it because this has happened so many times. I've been disappointed. So I just went to bed, woke up the next day, checked my phone. First thing I checked, I got about 20 texts off people. Deakins has won it. Deakins has won it. At the end of Major League, oh my God, the Indians win it.
And the special effects team won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Also deserved.
Oh,
yeah, definitely. 100%.
And that's the main crew on Blade Runner 2049. Hampton Fanchard and Michael Green crafting a worthy sequel script. Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfish creating that epic soundscape. Roger Deakins finally getting his Oscar. And effects teams seamlessly blending practical and digital. So world-class talent delivering pretty much world-class work throughout.
It really is a beautiful thing.
The end.
The final act of Blade Runner 2049 sees Villeneuve bring all the threads together. The climactic and wet confrontation between Kay, Love and Deckard is coming. But first, Viva Las Vegas, right?
Indeed.
So having discovered he might be the one, Kay heads to the radiation-soaked ruins of Las Vegas to find Deckard. In the most orange place in the world, Kay explores an old casino before coming face-to-face with the OG Blade Runner himself. We've got Pete Deakins and then Harrison Ford back-to-back. Yeah, Westy, you must be loving it.
Unbelievable. Just, every time I watch it, Christmas in July, let's be honest, it's absolutely wonderful. And I just, love this sequence. Every time it comes on, or anyone hasn't seen the film, I'm not going to watch it. I'll just go, right, well, just watch this bit. And I'll just show them that introduction of Kate into Vegas. And they're like, just stop. All right, I need to watch the whole thing. Just stop. Because you're not giving too much away at that point. Like I said, all of these shots here are just screensavers. The sound of the top is so foreboding. It's boom.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all these fallen statues. It reminds me, the Valley of the Gods from Jason and the Argonauts, where you have all the statues there. But it feels like they've all fallen. And you get that great one where there's the left eye of the statues missing, and the left eye's you look up and to the left is a replicant, so they've taken that eye away. That points back to it. But what it does set up is Deckard's kind of mindset and where he's at. And again, some wonderful nods to the first film, so I'll go through a few of them. Yeah. We've got the bee landing on his hand, which goes back to the original Voight-Kampff test that he does on Rachel, and he says, a wasp lands on your arm, I'd kill it.
Nice, yeah.
So he doesn't kill it, he lets it go, and then he ends up with his hand absolutely covered in the bees.
Yeah.
and then walks up. So it's just to say that he's a different kind of replicant. He's not going to, he's going to fail the void camp test. Basically, he's not going to kill anything. So he's got that empathy. He's got that play, and it really works into that.
So are those bees though? Are they real or are they synthetic? It doesn't really tell us, and I'm guessing they're meant.
I think they're meant to be real,
Right?
because I've done a little bit of research into it, because bees are used classically in German airports to monitor the clean air to see if there's any radiation.
Wow.
Ah, right.
And then we get them going through the door, and then you get that classic Harrison Ford reveal from the darkness, which is like the Raiders reveal.
It
It's
really
just,
is.
it's the hark back to what Dickens did in Skyfall. It's just got that, and I was like, please let him come out the dark, holding the gun he had in the first film. And I swear to God, I will never do anything nasty to anyone for the rest of my life. And he did, and I've just been lovely ever since. I swear to Christ. And it just that reveal. It's just perfect. That voice coming over, just revealing the line from Treasure Island, which is wonderful. It's just the back and forth, and it's just, this is a legacy sequel that that has the perfect dialogue in it. I used to do your job. I was good at it.
Yeah, great.
You're a cop. It was simpler then, and this you want that, because there's not too much where it's begging for the nostalgia, because we know enough. But that reveal of Ford, that back and forth from him and Gosling, that little standoff, and then that disappear over the balcony, is just,
it's great.
It's just absolutely wonderful from then on in. It's just, I'm absolutely sold.
And the eeriness in the casino is great as well. Deckard's appearance, it is like Indiana Jones. Villeneuve and Deakins must have known that when they were doing it. Sure.
100%. That would probably be the first shot they wrote down. How we're going to introduce Deckard? Just out the shadows with a gun. So that's the first thing I would have written down.
Exactly, yeah. And I think Gosling and Ford are great together as well. They've got real chemistry.
Yeah.
We've spoke about it, but the orange haze of Las Vegas was to signify the area is drenched in radiation, which obviously harks back to the bees. And it was inspired by photographs of a 2009 sandstorm in Sydney. These photographs are amazing, by the way. If you haven't seen them, just Google it. So Deakins showed the images to Villeneuve, and he said, yep, let's do it. Let's just do that. And it was done through on-set lighting and effects like mist and haze. And Framestore then added some digital color grading in post to kind of just boost the oranges a touch more. But yeah, there's behind the scenes footage of this as well, and it looks as good on set as it does on camera, I think.
Right.
With that little touch of grading at the end, it's amazing.
Even when you see it before Framestore got involved, it looks great. The final result is just ridiculous.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
And when he was planning the Las Vegas scenes, Villeneuve brought in Sid Mead, who had worked as a concept artist on the original Blade Runner, obviously.
Yeah,
and Villeneuve asked him to design how Las Vegas would look in the Blade Runner universe, and they based it mostly on his designs.
That might be my favorite brief ever. Las Vegas in the Blade Runner universe. Great.
Yeah.
And it was Sid Mead's last film, which isn't a bad way to go, like connecting the dots
true.
back to probably his most famous work.
There's another reference to the first film when we first see Deckard. His first line to Kay is, I'll try and do it. You might have a piece of cheese about you now, would you, boy? Which is pretty cool.
Oh, good.
So this is a quote from Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And there was a deleted scene from the first film where we see a character reading Treasure Island. That is the first line. I think the character stranded on the island is called Ben, and that's the first thing he says to the people who arrive.
Right.
So it's relevant because he's stranded as well, yeah.
And in the casino, there's a couple of other little details in there worth mentioning. You'll see that Deckard has carved some wooden animals, a rhino, an antelope, a cat, a horse, an elephant, and a lion, the first letter of which all spell out Rachel.
Also, when Kay visits Gaff earlier, he's made an origami sheep. Surely a nod to Duane Roy's Dream of Electric Sheep, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then when Kay walks into the hall where Deckard shows up, we hear the same bell sounds as when Deckard walks into the Bradbury building for the final showdown with Pris and Roy Batty in Blade Runner.
When Kay's walking around the casino, it kind of reminds me of like when you see old shots of the Titanic. There's something really ghostly about it.
I know what you mean, yeah.
The production design's fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like it's just been there forever, and they just stumbled across it.
It really does.
And there's that shot of Rachel as well, that little picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
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 You're talking about that torch he's carrying. That's what's making Vegas orange.
Nice of a start, yeah.
He's torch for Rachel.
And then after this, you get Kay and Deckard do that classic thing of two characters get into a scrap, and then they decide this is getting us nowhere. Let's just make up over a drink instead. I mean, what's interesting is when Ford is throwing those endless punches, he does look really tired. It does look like he's not had this kind of like scrap in such a long time. But in this fighting, weirdly, for everything this film features in regards to like AI holograms and replicants, I think this might be the most like prescient scene of all, with those hologram versions of Sinatra and Elvis playing
Yeah.
in the background. Because like you first watch this, you think, well, even in the future, who'd spend money to go and see hologram versions of artists singing? But then just a few years ago, you had that launch of ABBA Voyage, which
Yeah.
just uses holographic avatars of the band from the 70s. And that was a
Yeah.
huge hit.
Yeah.
But then you get the scene in the bar afterwards where, I mean, for a start, that dog can't be real because you shouldn't be feeding a real dog whiskey. You're in for a world of hurt if you do that.
Yeah. But he also says, ask him. So the dog might go, I'm a replicant, actually.
But that's
Mind
the
your
thing.
own business.
Like for like a throwaway line like that, it says a lot because it's funny. But actually, isn't that the point? The point is, in this world, it's not up to humans to judge whether replicants are real. Ask them themselves. You could ask the same question about joy. And that's the heart of the film for me. What constitutes being real? If you feel something, doesn't matter where your memories come from. And that, for me, in amongst this great scene of them just sitting with a drink, filling in the plot gaps, that's the most important line in this scene for me.
I mean, the concert hall is a great setting for the fight as well.
Yeah,
Elvis
it's
and
great.
Marilyn Monroe performing forever to an empty room, it seems
Yeah.
like. I find quite unsettling.
Yeah.
But then the
Yeah.
whiskey scene, that is one of the best moments in the film, I think. It's like a dialogue scene. But Kay thinks that Deckard's his dad at this point, so there's some undercurrent there. And I
Yeah.
think Ford is excellent again. The best I've seen him in a long time. Totally feels like Deckard and feels like he's been in hiding for like 30 years. And how cool is it when Kay runs through the wall to catch up with Deckard?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Cool as hell. A few more of those kind of moments wouldn't have gone amiss, to be honest.
Yeah, fantastic.
And the name of the casino is Vintage Casino. And the Sinatra hologram was a nod to the producer Cynthia Yorkin, whose husband Bud Yorkin had directed Sinatra in a film called Come Blow Your Horn in 1963. And both Sinatra and Elvis held residencies in Las Vegas at different times in their careers.
So did Elton John. Should have had him in there.
Aaron Eggers.
Imagine Daniel in the background.
The holograms of Elvis, Marilyn, and Sinatra weren't real footage. They were shot for the film. They were models, and the likenesses of the three stars were composited on top of the performers. Villeneuve said getting the holograms to work in this scene became so difficult that they thought about changing the scene altogether.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently the editor, Joe Walker, saved the day by having the idea of having the holograms kind of cut in and out like they do. And Villeneuve said that totally changed the scene. I mean, I can imagine. It makes it like really haunting.
And while shooting the fight, Harrison Ford accidentally punched Ryan Gosling in the face for real, which is a take we see in the film. So as an apology, Ford invited Gosling to share a bottle of whiskey with him and then mooned him. And apparently this is something he did to Sean Young on the first film as well.
Ford said that he punched him because Gosling dances forwards a lot more than he dances backwards. So his
So it's
fault.
Gosling's fault then.
Yeah.
And that's our journey to Vegas. Orange skies, abandoned dreams, and two Blade Runners coming together. But Love and Wallace have other plans, don't they?
Certainly do.
The climax of Blade Runner 2049 brings our characters together for some big revelations. Wallace tries to break Deckard with a digital resurrection, while Kay, having been told by the Resistance that he isn't the special one, races to save Deckard from love. It all ends in snow, silence, and sacrifice.
It does.
So how does it all play out, Matt?
It plays out so well in this reunion between Deckard and Rachel. Wasn't expecting it whatsoever for reasons we'll get into. But just that glimpse of her silhouette is just enough to make you go, is that who I think it is? And is that where the woman is? Because the film has done such an effective job of reintegrating Deckard into the story, into this world. We know that, apart from his daughter, Rachel is by far and away the most important thing in the world. So there's a genuine tension of, will he succumb to this temptation, even though he knows she's not the real thing? And this goes back to what we've been saying about Ford getting a real joy out of returning to this character, because it gives him some proper meaty material to get his teeth into, because this is some of his best work. This confrontation he has with Wallace when he says he knows what's real. And you can see the torment he's going through being faced with this, well, what looks to all intents and purposes, resurrection of Rachel. And you get that great moment where, you know, he says to Wallace, you mustn't have children. And Wallace replies he has millions, which is true. But with all those millions, he doesn't understand what it actually means to be a parent. Whereas Deckard only has one, but he totally gets it. So I think it's probably Ford's best scene in the film. It's really tense. I think the only thing I don't get is Wallace sending Deckard off-world to be tortured.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's just a convenient way to get him into his spinner so Kate can track him down, because otherwise you think you've got like a massive temple. I'm sure you've got a spare room
Yeah.
somewhere. Like, take him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a legal thing that they kind of get
Yeah.
into, and it's off-world, so
Yeah.
it's not legal. But imagine this had been Ford and Bowie.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Can you
what could have
imagine?
been? What could have been? Yeah.
And Wallace says that Deckard and Rachel were designed to meet and fall in love, which adds a little layer to the original
Yeah,
film.
great. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And Elvis was singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You earlier. Surely
he was.
an intentional choice.
And he says he loves the song.
And Ford's really good again when he looks at Rachel with some recognition and then sees her eyes were green and just walks away. And
Yeah.
then Love just executes her.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Brutal.
But I think it's interesting because even watching it now, one of the points of the film is to tell us that K and replicants have worth. When you see someone just casually execute a replicant, it does kind of normalize it a bit, which
I
is
know what you
how
mean, yeah.
oppression gets hold in the first place, by normalizing things that shouldn't be seen as normal.
Yeah,
So you can kind
exactly.
of see how that happens, yeah.
And the digital Rachel, she was created by an effects studio called MPC, and Villeneuve told them they had to make the best CGI version of a character ever seen.
No pressure then.
No pressure. No. Oh, I cheesed, didn't he? So they scanned Sean Young's skeleton as it is now to get her bone structure, and then created a digital skull of Rachel from that, and then laid skin on top using footage of Sean Young from 1982 as a reference. Then when they were done, they created a digital version of the shot of Rachel in the first film where we see her smoking in close-up. They showed the original and their shot to Villeneuve side by side, and when he couldn't pick out which one was real, they knew they were onto something.
Amazing. That's unbelievable, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely unbelievable. Imagine they used the wrong footage, though, and it was from Ace Ventura, and Ray Finkel walked out.
I mean, it shows how things have moved on because you couldn't have even tried that just a few years earlier.
Nah, no chance. No
Mapping
chance.
a bone structure, outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's mental.
It's amazing.
And then an actress called Lauren Peter was then hired to play Rachel in the scene, and Sean Young came in to work with Peter on her mannerisms and taught her how to walk like Rachel. They filmed Peter in the scene, and Young's face was digitally composited on top of hers.
Yeah, and apparently when they first did it, it didn't look good enough because it didn't look like Rachel, and they couldn't figure out why.
Right.
And one of the producers, Karen Murphy, said, it's not the skull or the skin that's the problem, it's the makeup that you've given her. That's not how
Right.
Sean Young was made up in the original. And when
Right.
they fixed that, it fixed the problem.
And then with all the secrecy around the film, they denied at the time that Sean Young was involved at all. But brilliantly, she got in on the act. She released a statement saying fans should boycott the film because she wasn't in it.
I remember that.
Yeah, fair play to her.
Really, right? Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that on socials. Yeah, she was like, "Just this is terrible. I'm not in
Yeah.
it." I remember that. It was like uproar. It was amazing.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
it is really good.
So Deckard's been taken off world to be tortured, I guess.
He's on the way, yeah.
He's on the way, and who's going to save him? Well, I mean, it's raining, so might as well have a replicant come in and crash something because that's what's going to happen. So there's this great shot where he's you know, the spinners are exploding either side. Kind of reminds us of the end of New Hope, you know, when he comes in on the Millennium Falcon and just blows the two guys away from Darth Vader on either side. It's kind of, is that a bit of a nod to like Han Solo?
Maybe,
Is he
yeah.
in there? Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I love that, the way it kind of crashes down.
Should have been the whoop as well, shouldn't it?
Well, imagine that. Yeah. Woo! Key at the back. It's great. And then that crash happens. This always, like, when it starts, I always get a little bit infuriated, thinking, I don't think this should be in the film. Like, when it starts and she comes out and starts attacking him and loves, like, fighting with Kay, and it's all this, like, martial arts and kung fu stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if this should be in. And then I'm watching it a bit more, and I'm watching it a bit more, and then the tension's building, and then the water's filling up, and then Deckard's is there, and then it's just this back and forth. And then there's just that, like, the gunshot, and then there's the stab, and then there's the kiss, and it's like, this is all tying together. This is absolutely necessary. This definitely needs to be in. She's overpowering him. She's going to win here. And then that moment where he just comes from under the water and just picks her up and just pins her against the wall. And it's just like, he's just got this absolute need to just destroy this thing, whatever it is. He's just, there's no humanity left in her whatsoever. And everything ties to this moment. And I honestly think that she could overpower Kay at this point. He's weaker than he has been anyway through the film, and he pulls her back under the water and he's choking her a bit more, and she gives up. I've watched this a number of times, and I think she gives up, and she looks up, and the way that he's framed through the water is he's got the two strips of light either side, which look like angel wings.
Right.
And he's framed in that way, and she kind of looks up and goes, but you know what, there's nothing left for us here now anyway.
Yeah.
And just kind of gives it up and leaves it, because that's her choice and her humanity.
Right.
So she chooses to die, and it's almost like Batty saying, "Time to die." Tears in the rain. She's in the water. It's like the ultimate for the replicant to be drowned, and just she would never drown in there. She's too strong, too powerful. I think she just gives up.
Yeah.
And just so beautifully done the way that that's framed, and I think that's the whole message in it, is that she actually lets him live, then he lets Deckard live, and then that's how they get their retribution at the end. So love actually becomes one of the heroes of the film.
Well, another part of the backstory is that LA was hit by a tsunami in 2025, which is why the seawall's been built.
Yeah.
And water has been kind of a recurring motif through the film, so it works well. As a setting to the climax, you've got the sinking spinner, the rising tide, Kay and Love beating the hell out of each other with the ticking clock of Deckard drowning in the background, so it's all kind of there narratively. It's great when Love stabs Kay and then kisses him really weird, and then just goes, "I'm the best one," which is a great line. But also kind of showing that she's where Kay was earlier. She wants to be special, or she thinks she has no worth. But I always noticed the scene before this as well. After Kay's been told he's not the one by the Resistance, he's wandering around LA, depressed, which is brilliant. Just needs a bottle and a brown paper bag.
Bottle of scotch.
And he comes across the giant Joy hologram ad. She calls him Joe, which is what his Joy named him, meaning she was just programming. And it's like he kind of resigns himself to the fact that he's just programming as well. And that's when he decides to save Deckard. And that choice is a thing that shows he's more human than human, which I think it's all just great, the way it turns around.
But the original plan was to film the climax at the Malta Film Studios, because that was known for its huge water tanks, and the shot Clash of the Titans and Game of Thrones there. But producer Cynthia Yorkin said that relocating all 230 crew members would have cost a fortune, and realised they could shave $1 million off the budget by building their own in Budapest, so that's what they did.
There's a good producer for you. The studio will have loved it.
Yeah, 1 million, is that all?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where that's built up, to be honest.
No.
It's a water
not.
tank. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since then, Terminator Dark Fate, June, and The Witcher have all used those Budapest water tanks as well.
All right, nice.
Right, yeah.
So Deckard saved, Love is gone, and Kay's on the way out, but it's not over just yet. Kay takes Deckard to Selene Laboratories to meet his daughter, Dr. Anna, but not before he expires himself on the snowy steps.
Indeed.
A good way to finish.
Well, I'll say this about the ending. Watching Deckard reunite with his daughter while Kate dies on the steps outside with snow falling down on him, the beautiful imagery of that, it's a hell of a lot more satisfying than bunging some outtakes from The Shining on the end.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's wrapped up, but I think it's wrapped up with this note of ambiguity still about certain things, and that just feels right for a Blade Runner film.
I agree, it does. I mean, it's a completion of Kay's arc, I think, isn't it? He finds his humanity in what we would like to think is the most human way possible. He sacrifices himself for others. I think the snow is a great visual choice.
Yeah.
It is a development of the water motif we mentioned, and it's like pure and peaceful, which is kind of where Kay ends up. That final overhead shot of him lying on the steps is perfect.
Yeah.
I think a worse film would have had an image of Joy appearing in his head, going, "I told you you were special," or something awful. Well, that's a great shot. It could have finished there, but then it ends with Anna and Deckard meeting, and the final shot is of Deckard as it should be, I think.
Yeah.
I think as final moments go, this is one of the best I've seen for years. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, from that moment when they turn up at the lab, it's just absolutely fantastic. If you just watch that moment about 5 or 6 times, just that moment, there's so much in here that really elevates the whole film. Deckard asking him if he's all right, treating him like a human.
Yeah.
Treating him like his emotions, his feelings. Are you okay? Are you all right? So he acknowledges who he is. The salt markings that are on Kay's coat when he pulls the horse out, saying he's been in salt water. It's all marked on his coat, which is absolutely incredible. Just in these little touches. The symbolism towards Batty's death, obviously the tears in rain, but he dies in the snow. Rain is too fast to acknowledge. Rain is too similar in its makeup. Snowflakes are individual. They fall slowly. They have their own individuality. They have their own identity. He catches it and he knows he's an individual. He's unique. He's a snowflake. He's completely his own makeup. So he dies his own. He dies a hero. And
Yeah.
then when Deckard goes in the lab, she's there, and is she now? I love this because the last time I watched it was last night, and I was like, oh, because the snow's falling in the lab. Is
Yeah, it
she
is.
creating that last memory for Kay? Can she implant memories from where she is?
I don't know. Maybe.
And if she can, that's beautiful, because she's like, she cannot leave there. So how else does she send the memories? How else does she know which model gets what?
I love the bit as well when Deckard like says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you helping me?" And Kay just goes, "Go meet your daughter."
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And he just
That is
looks at the
beautiful.
plate, he just kind of like looks up, and he's just, does he look up and to the left?
You're really
Probably.
analysing this bit.
I am. But does he? I think he might look up and
He
to the
might
left
do.
to
He
the
might
lab.
do.
It's like just
He might
saying,
do.
yeah,
Back
I'm
into the
acknowledged. Back into the left.
Yeah.
Which one was it? I'm getting this confused. No, I think he looks up and to the left to identify the fact that he doesn't care if he's a replicant anymore. There you are.
you could be
There's
right.
another something else in there. I'm not too sure about that, but I'm going to watch it again immediately and see. Yeah, that would be lovely if that happened.
But to prevent their ending from being leaked, it was communicated to the cast verbally and not included in the scripts. And in the moment Kay is dying on the steps, you can hear that Zimmer and Wallfish have weaved the score from the Tease and Rain speech into the background.
Another nice touch. Honestly, I think they get much closer to the Roy Batty death in the first film than I think we could have ever reasonably expected them to.
Yes.
I think it's a fantastic final few
With
seconds.
far more subtly as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And with that, Kay completes his journey from nobody to somebody. Deckard finds what he lost, and snow falls on Los Angeles. Not a bad way to end things.
Definitely not.
Wonderful.
Reception and awards.
So that's the story of Blade Runner 2049, and it opened in cinemas on October the 6th, 2017. How did it do? Well, our own Nexus 6 number cruncher has the data. So, Matt, give us those numbers, would you?
Well, here we go. Production budget was between $150 and $185 million. And on that, Blade Runner 2049 grossed $276.6 million worldwide, which was actually a big commercial disappointment for the studio.
Yeah.
But it did fare better at the Oscars, nominated for 5 awards in total, winning 2 of them. As we've said, Roger Deakins finally won for Best Cinematography, and John Nelson, Gert Nefzer, Paul Lambert, and Richard R. Hoover won Best Visual Effects.
So whenever any kind of publication, including us, talks about the budget of a film, I think it can be a bit misleading because we're usually talking about the production budget. On top of that, any film also has a marketing budget, which can be like 50 to 100% of the production budget. So Blade Runner 2049 had to make about $350 million to break even, which it didn't, like you said, Matt. So it lost about $80 million, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott said the slow pacing of the film was the reason it flopped, and said it was at least 30 minutes too long. And Villeneuve said he was proud of the film, but made the most expensive art house movie in cinema history. Go on, yes, get
He
in.
did, to be fair,
Yeah, so he knew it was a financial risk.
I can't believe the studio approved the script, to be honest. Without being
I'm
like,
amazed
we
they
need to
did.
lose 20 minutes,
same,
and
yeah.
include at least one big set piece in the middle. I mean, the
Yeah.
blueprint's kind of right there. Look at what Nolan's been doing for 10 years before this.
Yeah.
That's how you make a blockbuster that's artistic
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
makes money.
And Sony Pictures handled worldwide distribution of the movie and gave a censored version of it to Turkey, deleting all the scenes in nudity, and said they did that out of respect for the Turkish culture. However, Turkey was furious, and the SIYAD, the Association of Turkish Film Critics, wrote an open letter to Sony saying, seeing oneself as an authority to decide what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for a, in quote marks, local culture, and imposing your view on that culture is one of the greatest shows of disrespect for that culture.
Yeah, furious. So there's a nude shot of Mariette kind of in silhouette in Kay's apartment, which is only a couple of seconds. But that also means we'd lose the whole Wallace birthing the replicant scene, I guess.
Of course,
'cause
yeah.
she's naked.
Yes,
Surely it's better with that in, isn't it?
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, on to the critics, and we'll start, as we usually do, with Roger Ebert.
Big Rog.
Roger was no longer with us by 2017. He
No.
completed the baseline test, unfortunately. But what did Brian Tallarico of RogerEbert.com make of the film, do we think?
Don't really know Tallarico's vibe on anything.
I don't know. It's got to be the same as Rogers, though, hasn't it? It's that, that legacy they've got to stick with. I'm going to go, can you go 0.5? Does he do a 0.5?
He does a 0.5.
Right, you're 3.5.
It was 3.5 out of 4 from Brian.
Okay.
And he said, one of the most philosophical and challenging sci-fi films of all time, and one of the most stunningly shot films of not just this year, but the last several. Blade Runner 2049 answers questions about what it means to be human and how vital it is to appreciate art designed to enrich the soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Agree with Bryder?
Yes, I do.
Philosophical and challenging, that's why we like it, and also possibly why audiences stayed away.
I would have thought so, yeah.
Peter Travers of Rolling Stone also gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars and said, on its own march to screen legend, Blade Runner 2049 is a mesmerizing mindbender that asks new questions meant to tantalize, provoke, and keep us up at night. Does it keep you fellas up at night?
Every night since I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't slept since.
Yeah, I haven't slept since. That's why I'm the way I am.
And Empire Magazine gave the film the full whack, 5 stars out of 5. And Dan Jolan said, as bold as the original Blade Runner and even more beautiful. Visually immaculate, swirling with themes as heart-rending as they are mind-twisting, 24/9 is a good year. And, get this, if you think Ford's on easy territory, think again. This is possibly the best performance of his career.
Wow.
Wow.
Best performance of Harrison Ford's career? I mean, he's very good.
He's
Better
very
than
good.
Indy and Han Solo?
I don't think so.
Not quite.
Surely not.
I think the original Deckard performance is better than this one, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And so today on Rotten Tomatoes, Blade Runner 2049 has an 88% approval rating from both audiences and critics, perfectly balanced. And on IMDb, a solid 8 out of 10.
So Blade Runner 2049 was released to critical and audience praise, won awards, but was a box office flop. Making a good film doesn't necessarily mean you've got a profitable one, does it?
Nope.
No, that's
sadly.
very true, unfortunately.
Sequels and influence.
Denis Villeneuve has made sequels in his career, but with Blade Runner being the box office turkey it was, this never even looked like getting one. There's Blade Runner 2099 on TV, but would you like to see them make a movie follow-up to 2049?
I don't think I would.
No, I don't think I would either, probably. I mean, I'd love to see more of this world, obviously, and the finances make it unlikely, but maybe it is better to leave it as a nicely balanced two-film story.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. This feels to me like holding my breath a little bit too long in the pool underwater. And getting away with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you want to do that again? It's like too much of a risk. No, I'm fine. This is
Yeah.
fine. It's perfect. It works.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So Blade Runner is known for having 7 different cuts released over the years, but Villeneuve said that the theatrical cut is the only version of this film. At one point, there was a 4-hour rough cut, and they considered releasing them as 2 separate movies, but Villeneuve decided he just wanted one definitive version, which is definitely the right choice.
Imagine how slow it would have been if it was 4 hours.
God.
Fine.
2 box office flops.
Villeneuve has said he might be interested in coming back, though. In an interview with Empire, he said, if you ask me if I'd like to revisit this universe in a different way, I can say yes. It would need to be a project on its own, something disconnected from both other movies.
He said that he wakes up at night dreaming about a detective noir story set in the future, which kind of sounds like what Blade Runner already is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've made it, Denise.
That's why you're dreaming about it.
Yeah.
As for the influence and legacy of Blade Runner 2049, it's quite an interesting one. The original influenced countless science fiction films that followed, but how has this one left its mark? What do you think, Westy?
I don't know. I don't think this one has really left its mark as much as I think it should have.
Yeah.
I think what this has really done, it's elevated huge cinema. I think Nolan took a lot from this and went, right, I'm making things even bigger again. But the real pull away from this, I see, is Villeneuve going off and doing Dune. I don't think if he'd done this, it wouldn't have been able to do that. And if he hadn't done Dune, I think he would have come back and done something in this world. I think he would have needed it, but I think Dune's quenched his thirst. I think he's got a lot of that vibe in there, and he's pulled a lot from this to do that. And I think it's enhanced his vision and his career. I cannot see any other films coming off the back of like Blade Runner 2049 because it is so close to the original in its tone and what it's trying to say and in its delivery, because people have tried to do that when Blade Runner came out. And the only people who can do it again is to base it in this universe. So I think to try and move it on and to do something else. I mean, the other legacy sequels that have come out, you know, the Terminators and the Aliens and the Star Wars, and everyone's, well, Blade Runner was a bit of a flop, so let's try and do something a little bit, you know, it's got to be shorter. I think that's its influence is like they're looking at its negatives And they've tried to oh, they need to make them shorter, we need more action, and let's not make it this, and let's not make it that, which is quite derogatory, really, because this film wasn't necessarily made to be like a Friday night. It's like, you go and see it on an afternoon matinee maybe and then talk about it. It's a film that needs to be discussed. It's a cinephile film. And I think people have shied away from it. Unfortunately, I don't think people are ready for it. But it's now massively popular. It's got really good reviews. It's got really good customer reviews. It's right up there. And if you've got time for it, if you can sit in the house and turn the lights off and really, really get into this film, I think there was just too much in it for people to take away from one viewing at the cinema. And people were confused, and they were a little bit in, like Matt said at the top, it's a very intimidating film, and it's not for everybody. So I think that's what a lot of people took from this, is like, we need to simplify things and make it an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Really, that's kind of what I get from it, yeah.
No, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, Dune obviously benefited from Villeneuve cutting his big budget science fiction teeth here.
Yeah, which he split into 2 films again. It's like what he wanted to do with this one.
Exactly, yeah. I think the wider influence might be in how to approach legacy sequels. This showed that you can make something that honors a classic original while being its own thing. You don't need to bring back every character. You don't need fan service every 5 minutes. Just tell a worthy story with something to say in that world. But to be honest, the fact they lost money has probably been the overriding influence. Studios will have looked at this and thought, nah, let's just make something safe, which is a shame, but what happens? If this had been a big hit, it might have shifted the blockbuster landscape away from rehashing previous films, which would have been nice. If anything, it's probably just cemented it, unfortunately.
Here's the $1 million question, though. Do you think this would have been a massive hit if it was 2 hours long?
Depends what you lose.
I think if it had been shorter and they added a couple more action set pieces.
Like you take out the orphanage, for example.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And you put a little bit more, you make that set piece a little bit bigger, and then he finds the horse some other way, and then, there's a lot of the exposition scenes. You take out Wallace and you make Love the bad guy.
Yeah.
You're the baddie, and and condense it all down. Have Rachel at the end, and there's a big escape.
Lose a lot of joy scenes.
You lose a lot of joy scenes. Have joy just in there and then destroyed. So if you just took out the heart of the film, would it have been a success?
It could have been more. I think it would be more successful. I think that if they'd taken more influence from Nolan, because if Nolan made a film like this, he would have had more action in there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But would it have had as good an exploration of the themes? Possibly not.
Nah, exactly. I think it's the psychological themes that need to be explored, and that takes time. You can't just throw action at it. So I think it's the themes that they're exploring as well. At the time that it came out, I think they did a really, really good job. And I'm glad people are picking it up now, really. And the $1 million question is, if you dumb it down, it would be successful. Yeah. That's kind of the ultimate answer, really. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, like the first film, it'll find an audience.
Yeah, I think it has, to be honest. I think a lot of people love this film.
The influence legacy, it comes from the original Blade Runner anyway. So this one, it's one of those films where you go, the director couldn't have then gone on to make X film until they made this one first. And I think that's just very true of the scope and the scale of Dune. And, kind of like what we said on Bridge on the River Kwai, David Lean had to make that first before he could do Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia, yeah.
This is the similar kind of comparison. This is his Bridge on the River Kwai. Dune is his Lawrence of Arabia.
So no movie sequel to Blade Runner 2049 as yet, and maybe that's for the best. But in showing how to make a legacy sequel if you want artistic credit, and how not to make one if you want to make money, and in pushing forward the career of Denis Villeneuve, the influence of the film has been felt, we think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. For good and for bad.
All the Right Movies ranking.
And we've arrived at the end of Blade Runner 2049. Now it's time for us to each give our scores out of 10 and see if it's more Blade Runner than Blade Runner or just another sequel. Westy, you chose this one. Your summary and score for Blade Runner 2049, please.
I think this is more Blade Runner than Blade Runner. And it's exactly what I wanted. I wanted more of the same. I wanted to go back to that restaurant that I'd been to when I was younger and had that food that I'd tasted, and I wanted it to taste exactly the same when I went back. And I did, and it just had more ingredients in it, and it was fresher, and it was a little bit nicer, if I'm completely honest.
Wow.
And it's just a beautiful thing to go back to such a world and have it treated with such respect and such regard for the audience. And I think that's what Villeneuve did. He made this for people who really love the first film, and he didn't make it for anyone to just walk in and just go, oh, well, I'm a Blade Runner fan now. It's just, no, you're either buy into this or you don't. And it's just very true to its concept, very true to its message. I love its message. I love what it's trying to say. I love the depth of it. I love going through it and how I see something different every single time. I love the fact we could have kept talking about the ending for another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And is he looking up and to the left? And is it this? And is it this? That's what, to me, that's what cinema is. It is a visual medium, and it's about sitting with your friends after you've seen a film and talking about it. If we go and see Fast and the Furious 975 and we come out of it, we've got nothing to talk about because it's just, I've seen that before, so what's the point of making it? What do you get from it? This, you get a lot from it. And that's what I need. That's what I'm hungry for. And that's what I really want in contemporary cinema. And Villeneuve did that with this. And I couldn't be more thankful for it. And for that reason, leaving that cinema, I felt like I was learning about cinema again. I felt like I'd learned something new and I'd seen something fresh and exciting in 2017. I'm still waiting for it to happen again. So for me, it's a perfect film. It's a perfect 10.
Wow.
It's right up there for me. It's right up there for me. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground with this one, and for me, this is filmmaking at a very high level. Denis Villeneuve, massive respect to him for taking on an impossible task, making a sequel to one of the most influential science fiction films ever. And in my mind, he's pulled it off. And not just him, it was hugely collaborative. The visuals from Roger Deakins are stunning. Some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfish created the score that ties in with Vangelis, while being its own beast. That horn sound still ringing around my brain.
Yeah.
I think the performances are excellent across the board. Gosling leads it very well. Ford brings new depth to Deckard, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Ana de Armas' joy breaks hearts, certainly mine.
Yeah.
And Sylvia Hawks' love, badass. But what really impresses me is how it expands on the themes of the original without just repeating them. Kay's journey from obedient replicant to someone who chooses his own path, accepting he's not special, and that being what makes him special. I think that's really good science fiction writing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect. The pacing is deliberate, shall we say. And as I said, it might benefit from an exciting B plot and set piece or two.
Yeah.
But every frame is beautiful. Every scene's there for a reason. And it is a film that gets better on each viewing. It's 100% a worthy sequel in my eyes. That's a feat in itself. But also as a film that gives me hope that Hollywood is still capable of intelligent, thought-provoking science fiction. That makes it even more special. So it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
And Matt, your summary and score for BR2049, please.
BR20. Okay, right. This film.
Those are the right numbers, don't worry.
Just out of check. I'll get the negatives out the way first because there's very, very few of them. It is just a bit overlong for me. Bigger is not always better, and there are elements of the plot. The more that you think about them, the shakier they get. But that is really about it for the negatives. Everything else on an artistic level is exceptional. And as I said at the top, it's a sequel I didn't think we'd ever see. Certainly not in this form. It like we've said, it's mad that the studios gave him that much money to basically do exactly what he wanted with no notes. It's such a one-off in that sense. I've said before, I'm not a huge Villeneuve fan. I don't quite get the hype. But I have to be honest and give credit where it's due. I think this is easily his best film.
Wow.
What he's accomplished here is something I generally just don't think anyone else would have had the mindset or skill set to do. So it's really easy to score this for me. Is it as good as the original? No, it's a little bit of a step below. So therefore, it's also a 9 for me.
Very nice. Well, we also put this out there to our ATRM patrons to get their thoughts. As loyal as love, but thankfully less murderous.
Yes.
They've got some big opinions on the film.
I bet.
So, We Were the Reds said, this is a 10. A follow-up to the original that expanded on its themes and wisely let the first film's question about Deckard remain up for interpretation. Visually stunning, the score's perfection, and solid acting performances. I'm always left wanting just one thing. At the end, with Kay on the steps, I want him to crack a small smile, then cut to black. A smile from Kay at the end.
You get one before he hits the steps, though. He smiles just as he says, "Come to your daughter."
Yeah. I probably wouldn't go for that just at the end, to be honest. That feels like one step away from joy turning up again, to be honest.
I think you just need to watch the end 6 times like we have, and you'll see. It's all there, it's all the right notes, just in the different order.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
Thomas Boyd, not quite as big a fan, said, this is a movie I want to love, but can't.
Right.
Beautifully shot and a natural extension of the world in the original, but the third act lets the film down. Things happen that make no sense, just to set up a confrontation between Love and Kay and facilitate the reunion between Deckard and Stallone. 8 out of 10. I'm guessing Thomas means Stelline, unless I missed Sly turning up. At the
Oh
end.
man, I want to see that version.
Just running up the steps.
Yeah.
And Kieran said, massively underrated. I love how they flip the mystery from the original on its head, and I can't think of any other film where we can't be sure if the protagonist's motivations are his own. Plus, Vegas rising out of the sandstorm was class.
Yes, it was.
It was and is
yeah.
class, Kieran, you're right.
You're right. Correct.
So, mostly very positive from our patrons, and altogether, they rated the film as, what do you think they gave it out of 10?
I'll say it's a solid 9, like.
Yeah, it won't be perfect. I'll go 9 as well.
Yeah. Nobody's as visually excited as I am about things.
It was a very solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So in total, that gives Blade Runner 2049 37 out of 40 in total.
Nice.
A grand score.
Grand score indeed.
And that's us done on Blade Runner 2049. Hopefully you don't think we're not even close to baseline.
Please, anything but.
We're fine. Yeah.
Next time out, Luke, Westy and Matt are trading their podcasting mics for a Glock 17 and a great soundtrack. You're talking Professional Killing, John Cusack, Minnie Driver, and Gross Point Blank.
Certainly are. Yep.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's going to be tons of fun.
Yep. You're not going to have to wait 10 years for it either. 10 years.
And in the meantime, to find out more about becoming a patron, supporting what we do, and accessing our archive and bonus episodes, please visit patreon.com/all the right movies, or you can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. Also, if you could leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you use, that helps us out more than you could ever know.
It
So-
really does, guys.
It helps us move up the ladder and let's just get a wider audience, which we would really, really love to reach out further. So if you could help us do that, that would be absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And socially, you can keep up with all the right movies on Twitter or X, where we are at AT Right Movies. We post threads on there that tell the stories behind classic films. Everything we post has been said by someone involved in the production, or it comes from 3 separately verified sources, which is the same as our podcast. So go check that out. And you can also find us on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook, and on our website, which is alltherightmovies.com.
Exactly. Try not to find us. That's hard.
Exactly.
That's the harder thing.
Yeah.
We're all off now to lie in the snow and contemplate how special we are. Not very, I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm just going to look up and to the left and then go to sleep.
Gross Point Blank special, though, so come back for that.
Yes.
And for now, thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much, guys. Take care.